Hello everyone, and welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings 81. I think I've done my maths right there. Yes, I have. Well, it's a nice change. But yes, so welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings 81. Now you may have noticed the title and the description are a little bit different. So with the approaching of the 4-year anniversary of Ramblings, which is the 2-year anniversary of doing this stuff live, I thought it would be nice to ask the audience if they'd mind fielding questions related to things about Ramblings that have happened in the past. Now, this probably won't run for the entire Ramblings, but it would be, I thought I'd give people a chance to field their questions now, because next week will be a normal Ramblings plus announcing the final guest list for the 4-year anniversary. There are still some people I want to try and get, even at this late stage, even though I'm up against the clock. Where... You know what, Fleet? Sometimes you can be a little bit silly, can't you? So, the stage. And there we go. People are here. It's me, Fleet, the Random Rambler. So, yes, let's see who is in the YouTube. Timu's here. Oh, thank you, Ruin. I knew there was something that I'd forgotten to do. I knew there was something I had forgotten. Right, so, without further ado, let us actually get back into the meat and potatoes of this. Only sometime. I'm getting pretty good at keeping the bot going. She should be up and running, and I did the update when we were doing brew ships yesterday. So, she should be up to date. Okay, I mean... I'm trying to encourage questions about the history of Ramblings, first and foremost, Gunnery Officer. At least for the first half an hour to an hour. If possible. Does anyone have any questions about how Ramblings started, how long it's been going, who's been on the show?
I'm more surprised that you're doing that today.
Basically because tomorrow I'll be announcing things. Basically because tomorrow I'll be announcing things, and no, sorry, not tomorrow. Next week will be announcements plus a normal Ramblings, aka a chance to get people, for people to get normal Ramblings questions out of their system before the big special, because there's going to be a lot going on in the special. It won't just be a normal Ramblings for the 4-year anniversary. There'll obviously be me stepping down at the end of it and Moe taking over. There's a lot that will go on in the 4th-year anniversary special.
That's not what I'm referring to.
And next week, obviously, I'm just doing a...
But
what?
What is today's date, Fleet?
The 5th. 5th of May.
What is special about the 5th of May?
VE Day.
Is it Independence Day?
VE Day.
Yeah, I know. No, well, no, it's not. VE Day's...
In particular,
no. Well, no,
so this year is the 80th anniversary.
No, that's the 8th. What are you talking about?
In particular, VE Day celebrations are today.
Well, yes, but the anniversary is not till the 8th, and I've already got other things planned for the 8th of World of Warships.
You tell that to the flyover.
Well, yes, but we have a bank holiday for it. But, yes. But the actual V-Day is the 8th, not today. And I will be active on the 8th with the with the World of Warships crew.
Yeah, Timu got it. Yes, technically, Leslie, it is on the 8th, but all the celebrations normally happen on the 5th, which is a bit weird.
Should be. Let me just ask the bot to actually start itself going. There we go. So the bot's now starting itself going. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions related to History of Ramblings and how that all got started, yeah, of course you can. Of course you can DM me.
No, I think I can kind of give us mine.
We didn't. Right, I'll see if I can find it as long as you sent me it.
From last Monday, I think.
That's
Oh, I dropped my hell.
Whoops. But yeah.
In penance, I must drink my liquid death.
But yeah, so got stuff planned for the VE Day actual date itself.
That's still in last week's.
On
the one you're referring to.
On the well, I've already said. But yeah, so any questions related to Ramblings itself, please, are prioritized first. If we get no questions, I will be very sad.
I can answer that one from Team almost instantly.
So, very quickly, we'll start with the first question I've seen that's actually related to Ramblings. Zuikaku asks, what celebrities have come through Ramblings? The only real ones that, if you want to talk about celebrities in the area that we operate, I've had the Chieftain on, Drax been on, Rex's Hangar's been on, Shipyard's been on, Dr. Clark's been on, but in terms of anything bigger than that, sadly, no one else. Not through lack of trying. Ramblings related question. What motivated you to waste hours of your time talking to maybe a dozen people on a Discord server? Well...
Autism.
No. Funnily enough...
Boredom and a slot not being used.
Partially. The reason's a lot more personal than that. But suffice to say, I needed something to distract me from something happening in my life at the time. Something to do every week, and I saw that we weren't using Theatre at Sea, so I decided to start doing something with it, and it provided a good distraction. And so, because people seemed to turn up to it, I kept going. And it sort of spiraled out from there. Will Jingles or Habitual Line Crosser ever come on Ramblings? Well...
Jingles is a big no.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Because he's really sick and he's not available for doing stuff like that anymore.
Yes, there is that as well. But also, even if I wanted to, I wouldn't even know how to go about contacting the man. As for Habitual Line Crosser, again, same thing. No idea how to get in touch with the man.
What does he do?
But... Yeah. So yeah. It's... in regards to the Ramblings anniversary, yeah, 2 weeks' time, 4 years. 2-year anniversary wasn't recorded, the 4-year one will be. And as some of you probably know, the 4-year anniversary will be the date in which Ramblings stops being hosted in the drydock and instead moves over to my own server. And of course, I will be talking to Cyclic and Hood about getting permissions to post that link to, along with, everything else for that time. So anyone who wants to follow Ramblings on Discord still can.
I've got no clue. Those are the only questions I don't have access to.
Yeah, if you posted one, Timo, it's there. I'm just doing things a little bit different.
And then you'll be under my complete control. Aha.
Yeah, you've got one there, Timo.
Runon, I'm pretty sure I could bribe you with a couple of cans of Iron Brew and a UK passport.
But also, Dragon's also a moderator, Ruinon. Your technical moderation, it's true, but in terms of actual moderation power in the server, Dragon has equal strength compared to you.
And I'm not trusted to do anything.
No,
Like it shouldn't
For good
be.
reason.
Foxo, you're my friend. I like you.
Yes,
but
I believe we did. I think
No.
It was that the one about what his favourite, what's
Yes.
called FAA fighter.
But
I think it wasn't
yeah,
even FAA fighter. I think it was just FAA plane in general.
but yeah. So it's coming up on 4 years now. It's been going for a really long time. Most of the people who now help run it, so Dragon and Foxo, have been fixtures either in the audience or off to one side almost since the beginning. It's become something of a passion project. And it has adapted and changed as things have gone on. What's been my favourite part about doing Ramblings? Honestly, it's the way in which, politely, it's the fact that it's just I look forward to doing it every week because you never know what it's gonna bring. You never know what questions are gonna get asked. You never know who's gonna be on the panel. I don't know if Drax's gonna drop in like a firebolt out of hell, like he did last week occasionally, or if Dr. Clark's gonna be here. But my favorite thing overall, has to be the way in which it's changed my life. It's opened connections to people like, well, first of all, for the first 2 years, it got me much closer to people like Drac and others, and it also basically allowed me to connect a lot more closely with other people on staff. Then, when I started people asked for it to be recorded or streamed, I then connected to people outside of, the server and to people like Dr. Clark. And through that's enabled me to actually move towards doing this as a job. And that people actually do want to listen to me ramble on for hours at a time. That's my favourite part. Zuikaku asks, when you've done Ramblings, by this point, how many alt history timelines have you done? Let me think. From off the top of my head,
Stars are in the sky.
off the top of my head, in terms of full timelines, there was the one about Axis capital ships, which spiraled out into. There was the one about the Japanese winning the Russians winning the Battle of Tsushima, which spiraled out into a whole thing. In the 40s, that was that timeline. Then, of course, there's Red Fleet timeline. Everyone knows about that. There have been shorter one and done timelines. So for things like some more realistic changes in history, we've gone into depth on those. So for example, and then of course there have been things like, what if B-52s go back? We dug into that in the Big 50. And that was like an example of the one and done. But you're looking at the high double digits, probably not into triples.
Easy into triples.
Fleet, time record for the longest recorded ramblings ever. 19 hours. And that was the 2-year anniversary. I had to take a break in the middle of it, but the ramblings kept going. Hood was there, Dragon was there, Drac was there.
Yeah, it was fun. Me and Hood just went through various different warships tech trays and made Hood just internally scream. And externally.
Yeah, that was the longest ramblings I ever managed to do. It was honestly impressive. I don't think the 4-year anniversary will be that long. It will probably be a long show, so I will probably start it. I will tell the guests to be there for 5. I will probably start it around 3.
And this is where he actually just does, like the 72-hour historiathon.
and we will probably run until I get tired, but it probably won't be.
I will buy you the Red Bull for Historiathon.
But it will probably be sometime into the early morning, but probably no later than 3-4 o'clock. It depends how tired I actually am. So yeah. Can I make it a Friday? No, not really. The 19th has been decided for months now as being the... Well, heck, not even months, years. At least a year and a half I've been planning this. So... Unfortunately, that's kind of locked in stone. And I already have told the guests that that's when I want them. And we're too close now to change.
Day off.
Yeah, and it's too close now to change it. I am not going for 40 consecutive hours. No. So the favourite sci-fi topic the panel returns to frequently? That's got to be usually stuff to do with Star Wars. It's something I know enough about to go toe-to-toe with Dragonon, even though he's ahead of me for the most part. 40k I tend to lose out on overall because my grasp of the lore is 10 years out of date. So I get my teeth handed to me. But
yes, right 20 years.
But my favourite sci-fi setting has to be ones to do with steampunk, because I always love having a crack at steampunk. It's quite fun. Best question you've ever had here. Now that's a tough one. There's been so many, and a lot of them just haven't been recorded. I mean, there's 2 years of ramblings that just is unavailable. I mean, let's see, when did... Because I first started recording them, then posting them, but then we went to lives. The first recording of Ramblings was uploaded 7th of August 2023. So we've nearly been going 2 years with recorded/streamed content. So, funnily enough, the first video on the channel was a Hoi 4 Equestrian War game that's still there. Which is kind of funny. And the most popular video is...
I see nothing wrong with
is the 1.2k start of the session series I did in Spain in the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts with Rex's Hangar and... oh, yes! My 22nd birthday. Or was it my 21st? No, it must have been my 22nd, because I would have been 21 by that point already, because I... Or was it? Oh, no, actually, hang on. No, it would have been my 23rd, because I'm always 1 year older than the year. And if it was 2021, that would have been my... Oh, God, I was so thin then. Christ, I need to get back to that. I was so thin then. I had a neck that was separate from the rest of me. I've been rambling for far longer than before I started. Oh, well, yeah. I've been rambling since the 21st of May 2021. I don't think I'll ever forget that date. Remember, ramblings used to be on a Wednesday. That's when it originally was. Then it moved to a Thursday, and then settled on a Monday sometime in 2022, I believe. What is my workout regimen now? Yeah, I've got myself sorted. I do a lot of walking and hiking, and I've altered my diet massively, and it seems to be working. I don't really hit the gym that much. I've changed my diet, and I do a lot more outdoors activity, and it seems to be working. Fleet, do you have to eat while you're doing ramblings? No, I usually have dinner before I do a particular ramblings on a particular day. 20 push-ups, now you can shove off. I don't do push-ups normally, never mind for requests. I can't even do one of the things. How much do I weigh?
No. A pound of push-up plate.
How much do I weigh? I have no idea, actually. Funnily enough, I haven't weighed myself in years. I just go off what I look like. And what I want to look like. And I don't look like what I want to look like. Ruben asks, what's the panel's opinion on classifying steampunk as a branch of sci-fi?
Why the hell would it be classed as sci-fi?
Because it kind of is.
No, it's not.
It can stray into sci-fi.
But science fiction is usually a very particular sort. Steampunk is more fantasy-based.
Might argue it's kind of not. A good steampunk setting should ground itself in science, which therefore runs into science fiction. If it doesn't, then
Not really, because if you look at most steampunk, they use complete fantasy materials to actually allow them to work.
Yes, that's bad steampunk.
Okay, the thing is, steampunk, essentially you have what Drake's talking about, which is the sci-fi style things, where it's essentially sci-fi with a coat of steampunk paint on it.
Stuff like Dystopian Wars falls into that.
Yeah, or stuff like Rule the Skies.
Yeah.
Where you've got like magic levitatium.
Yeah. Or
and
stuff.
Then
Spacecraft of the First World War as well is a good one.
Yeah, and then you've got stuff like the steampunk elements in D&D, for example, on Lost Worlds, with a lot of artifices, a lot of steam, a lot of automaton, sort of Skyrim style steampunk.
Yeah, and it's like it's steam. And it's like how does it work? It's steam. Yes,
steam,
but how does it work?
With magic.
Yeah, and
lastly, you've got steampunk, which is grounded and sort of like Iron Harvest, sort of. It's steam. It uses materials. It's just
these don't work in the laws of physics.
Yeah, and
which,
sort of
to me immediately puts it into fantasy beyond even science fiction.
Yeah, but all of the punks are fantasy to some degree. It's just
that's why I don't class it as science fiction.
Are they soft fantasy or hard fantasy? It's like I'd put some of the Elder Scrolls Dweller hard fantasy steampunk. Steampunk in general, soft fantasy.
I mean, we never really had
a weird sci-fi branch.
We never really had a steampunk era. What we had was the era of widespread steam use. Steampunk would be steam basically dominating everything across the planet. From flight to submergence to ships to cars to everything. Steampunk would be steam dominant with nothing else standing against it.
A good way of putting it is steampunk is what if the Victorian age never ended.
It can be,
especially with the aesthetics of it.
Yes,
that is the punks.
Yes,
it's sort of like how atom punk is. What if the World War II never ended, or the interwar period never ended?
No, that's diesel punk. Atom punk is what if the 50s never ended.
Sorry, diesel punk. Atom punk is the 1960s, the 1970s, the 1980s, Cold War
aesthetic. Yeah.
But what if all the insane shit in the Cold War was real?
Yeah.
So technically speaking, by certain literary definitions, steampunk is classified into science fiction because of when it was initially written in the early 19th century. And in particular, beyond that, though, notably, a number of these later ones take stuff from Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, etc. But on average, most modern steampunk is very much more fantasy than science fiction.
Yes. But very quickly. How much Iron Brew do you have to consume to get through ramblings normally? I don't drink Iron Brew. I never have, and likely never will. I drink Coke Zero.
That can be corrected.
I drink Coke Zero when I'm on soft drinks, and cider when I'm feeling like I need a little bit more kick.
Why would you drink Coke Zero?
Because I don't want to take. Because I want something
Drink
that isn't
Dr. Pepper, dumbass.
Because I don't want something that. Because I like Coca-Cola. I don't want something that will cause my waist to balloon like a zeppelin on steroids, and also
don't drink Coke Zero. Coke Zero is the worst of them for you.
Pepsi Max is better, and that says something.
I mean, both have 0 calories. So
if you don't want to get fat, you want ones with actual sugar in.
Iron Brew is a particular type of soft drink.
If you don't want to
Scotland,
get fat,
CQ.
you want ones with actual sugar in. Really?
Yeah. Okay. So here's what you.
See, one has calories, Foxo. The other one doesn't.
But here's the thing, right? The vast majority of the sugar in a lot of sugared energy drinks is stuff your body burns through quickly. Most of it, and here's what I'm saying. A lot of the additives they put in the non-sugar versions to make it taste like the sugared versions are a lot worse for you and stick around in the body a lot longer and encourage fat production a lot more.
Yeah, basically Slayer's got it in one there. Artificial sugars can't be digested nearly as easily.
Yeah.
What I would point out is that one.
At least you're not drinking the diet ones.
One puts calories into me immediately. The other one I can fight by changing my diet. So one is acceptable, one isn't.
But most of natural sugars, you won't go into fat. You'll just piss it out.
Yeah, sure. Tell that to the Americans.
No, the Americans have different problems because they put 44 grams of sugar in 350 milliliter measures.
Yeah, all stuff like corn syrup.
Like in the American standard can's like 12 fluid ounces or something, which is a bit bigger than our standard because ours is 330 milliliter standards, whereas Americans do the 12 fluid ounces. And as said, I quite like some of the American stuff, like American Fanta, but they have 44 grams of sugar in equivalent to 350 ml. If you go for the English variety, you're lucky to have 4 grams of sugar. Like, that's where some of the other problems come in, let alone all the artificial colorings. Like, just compare American Fanta to British Fanta, and then you can see why there's problems with the US diets.
If you want the ones that are actually quite good for you, get the fucking European version, not the British version.
Do you have any idea how much import that would cost? I'm not made of money.
Much, apparently.
Okay,
I'm not made of money.
Right then. In the nicest way, Foxo and Dragon are right, Fleet, you're wrong, and I have this from NHS doctors and Navy doctors. The actual fact is most of the stuff which we use now to replace sugars these days comes from the American search and comparing with corn syrup sugar and its effect on your body. UK, we use cane sugar. That has that's far more naturally occurring, and your body can process it far better. You still shouldn't have too much of it. Like everything in life, you should not have too much of it. And the fact that people sometimes come to me and go, well, Alex, you how can you say that when to get through ramblings, which I imagine is probably what the question was, usually about 1.5 liters of Iron Brew. Well, I have the joyous fact of I don't sleep that much, and my average daily expenditure of calories is somewhere in the region of 3,500 calories. That is one of the reasons why the trouble is, though, I also spend quite a lot of my time at the moment sitting down and not going to the gym. Whereas when I go to the gym, I usually get up to 4,500 to 5,000 calories a day usage. Trouble is, I still like to demolish a whole pizza occasionally, and I know that's bad for me. So I do know where the weight comes from, but it ain't the sugar in my diet. It's because that's pretty much just Iron Brew because I don't eat a lot of chocolate or anything else. But it is probably the fact that I, like a certain lady Fox here, do like a Domino's on a Friday.
Good lord.
And I might take down a whole large pizza solo.
Ugh, good lord.
So do
What a
I,
horrible
but
thought.
I'm still underweight.
What a horrible thought.
Yeah. My local, I don't know if your one does this, but the Red Roof Domino's does the whole thing where if you get a large pizza, the 14 chickens, 14 chicken bits, and a dessert, you get the chicken and the dessert for free with a large pizza.
Oh, I hate
But
that.
I take them all down.
Oh, I
But over here
hated
it's-
that. I
You
hated
get two
that.
large
Such a pain in
pizzas,
the
you get
neck.
2 sides, and a box of cookies free.
You have no idea how much I hate that. So much work for the
What?
delivery driver to deal with, honestly. Just order
What?
a pizza, make our life simpler for God's sake. I'm sick of having to
But
deal
you know
with
the
bloody...
best part?
The nicest way to delivery drivers here, go around in cars
Well, yes, true, but so did I.
in my area, and
Remember, he
two,
lived in Lincoln.
when
They
they're
haven't
dropping
invented
it
the
off to
car yet.
me, they are also dropping off a pizza off for my sister, which is gluten free. She ends up getting herself a large, but eats half one day and half the next day for my mum, because my mum is also the generation who believes that cold pizza for breakfast is a treat. Still not quite sure how that one crept into her childhood, but apparently it did. Blame it on having an Italian neighbour. And, so there's quite a large order coming to our house when you're delivering 2 large pizzas, 1 gluten-free pizza, 2 boxes of chicken, of the 14 chicken. One, I think my sister has the gluten-free side. I'm not sure what it is. I can never remember it. And 3 desserts and some bottles of drink. But I have to admit, I tend to use it to stock up my sister's amount of Fanta in the house. Because I'll buy my own Iron Brew. She forgets to buy a Fanta and then she's cranky.
I used to be a delivery driver. Easy deliveries are good ones. 1 pizza and a drink. Fine. Anything else can fuck right off. I don't have time for your bullshit.
Trust me, Fleet. Trust me, Fleet. As someone who is currently basically front of house / food runner / bar staff, gluten-free stuff's the worst. Let alone if it's then got allergies. I doubt you've had to deal with a table of 20 people, all with 10 different allergies on it, where every single time you enter the room, you have to completely wash your hands entirely. Make sure that you collect this one plate.
Oh no, I understand.
Let it come near anyone else.
Oh, I understand.
It is
know your pain. Know your pain. Know your pain. Genuinely, know your pain, Dragon.
Also, then they keep going, can we have gluten-free bread?
No! Well, yes, you can have gluten-free bread.
No, really. Who has this normally?
Yes, it does exist.
My poor sister, who is she's hospitalized on gluten and dairy, but I do realize there are what annoys me is annoys me for my sister, the amount of people who go, oh, I choose to be gluten free because I think it's healthy for me. It's not.
It's not.
The stuff is not. Unless you've got an allergy, it's not healthy for you. And the people who then, in a nice way, the amount of times if I'm doing the shopping in Tesco or something, and I'm going down the aisle and I'm getting stuff, and I'm looking at the stuff and looking at this stuff that's been the empty shelves, and I'm going, how much has it been bought by people who are actually allergic to it, and how many people by people who are actually just thinking it's a good thing for them for some reason? When you read the stuff they put in to replace gluten, it's really not one you want to be taking on. And Megascrow, DIYing pizza, I do agree. I do enjoy doing it myself, but there is something on a Friday night where I just enjoy. In the nicest way, I spend most of my Friday in consultancy meetings talking to people about their summaries. But in the evening, I just want a pizza, and I just want to sit there and probably play a computer game after I've watched my video go premiere. That's it. That is my entire plan of action on a Friday night after a Friday.
It's like stuff like building your own pizzas are really useful for people who either have way too much time or don't have a job.
Yeah, it's something that annoys me that so many supermarkets have removed their pizza counters or have downgraded them to the point where it's near useless. I think the only ones who still have them now is Asda.
And Morrison's.
Because they were
Morrison's do. In my area.
Right. They
do in my area.
Put it this way, we have a Morrison's near where I live, and as soon as they changed their pizza counter to their new great idea, their pizza counter practically went bankrupt. Because first of all, they changed from pizzas from being, set sizes to, yes, do you want a 1/3 a meter pizza?
No.
What the bloody hell's a third a meter in this context?
Anyway, look.
I'm presuming it's a 30 cent one.
I have to assume so, but they also reduced the amount of toppings, and they reduced variety to non-existence. What's wrong with Nebraska?
Megascrow asks,
wants to visit you.
What is the subject you'd want more questions on? I desperately want more questions desperately want more questions in the 19th century. I want more questions related to ironclads and the games of the great powers played in that period. We don't get nearly enough. It's something I know a little bit about. Specifically, I want people to move away from World War II and the Cold War. We get far too many questions about World War II and the Cold War. Can we...
I think World War II...
Or at least ask questions about the interesting bits of the Cold War. There's only so many times you can talk about late 80s and early 90s Royal Navy ships.
Yeah, or late 80s and early 90s tanks or planes,
in particular, I'm going to say I'm biased, and yes, more World War 1 and 2 questions are definitely good for me, because the 18th century is where my knowledge peters out quite significantly. 18th and 19th. My knowledge peters out very quickly.
What I would say, and this is speaking as someone who has been running a very eclectic channel, which literally has no separate I will do the whole of gamut of history. Very rarely do I get Age of Sail questions, let alone ancient questions on Patreon.
That's fine. I don't.
And if I look at my videos, World War One and World War Two are the bread and butter. And the thing I've learnt is the way you get more, and usually I get more questions about these other areas after over time as I've done more videos about them, and I've built up. In a way, this is going to sound egotistical, but I've built up the fact that A, the channel is happy with accommodating all this, and B, that it's a good thing to be interested in all of it and wider, and you start to attract people, and I'm going to cite a name here because they're in the chat, so they're going to, and I know they wouldn't mind it. You have people like Leslie come involved. And Leslie is a great person to talk about because they've got involved in a lot of the channel. They're always chatting back there. They've got lots of questions about Japanese history. But the thing is, as time has gone on, they've started finding they're going back further and further in Japanese history. And we're starting to talk more about the earlier stuff. And I love all history, so I don't really care, to be honest. I've always loved it all. But the thing is, it's once you start, the thing that I've enjoyed, and it's as you build up a channel, and I think Drac would say the same thing, as you build up the channel, you slowly get to a point where people listening to your audience start realizing there's a critical mass of people who realize, oh, this stuff happened because of this stuff which happened 20 years before, which because of this stuff happened 50 years before that, and it builds up, and there's a rhythm to the history. There's a flow of it going forward, and you can learn very good lessons. That's one of the things that comes up. I did a video recently about one of the earlier examples of basically the Gallipoli problem. When you show up and attack your opponent and don't have the force to land, so they just strengthen their defenses, and the next time you come back, you get absolutely shafted. Well, people look at Gallipoli and they almost treat Gallipoli like, oh, that's a lesson which had to be learned then. It didn't. It was a lesson which had been learnt and forgotten. And that's something which comes once you've grown the channel. So I think, I would say you're going to get more of these questions, but it's going to take time. And it's also going to have to get the questions on ironclads. I'm going to have to get past the fact that everyone's fairly certain that any time we bring up ironclads, you're going to start talking about a certain French ship, which doesn't need to be named. Doesn't, because no one needs to look it up.
Well, politely, I mean, it was a nice discussion there, Alex. But it kind of missed the point that the question was, what would I like to see, rather than ask these questions.
No, but basically, I was telling you, you're going to see it.
Well, of course, I know. Eventually.
So the nice one, you'd like to see it, yes. But I said, well, it's coming. It's going to come, but it takes time. It takes time, and you're part of the process. So you'd like to see it. I agree, and I'd like to see it for you. But it's going to take time. You're going to get there.
Just think of it this way, Fleet. How many players play the what's it called? I can't remember its name now, but the Age of Sail combat games versus how many people play, say, World of Warships.
Well, yes, but
it's a matter of fact that in time you will eventually find people who are more interested in this period. But for the vast majority, the age of steam and steel, especially World War 1 and 2.
I mean, a lot of this is pretty self-evident. And I'm aware of that, but I was asked a question and I answered it.
Yes, and we've gone from that answer and I've given you further answers to it.
Yes, but I didn't need them. I'm not unhappy that they've come, but
of course you.
It's the point of having a panel discussion, my friend.
I know. Right. Tung 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 tung.
Just say
what
tung.
a name! What a name! Asks, what is the absolute weirdest question you've had, or perhaps the worst one? Actually, we can split that into a two-parter. The weirdest one has to be stuff completely out of left field. So there used to be the running gag of, is cereal a soup? That Sidious used to ask every week to get us going. There was the whole thing with... There was a person asking really weird personal questions. That was pretty weird. A couple of years ago. I actually had to summon Cyclic to hit him with the old stick. Luckily, that one wasn't recorded. And as for the worst question, nothing annoys me more. And here I speak with some confidence. Basically, what if a certain event doesn't happen? Discuss. I'm like, you've just removed, let's say, for example, what if Admiral King doesn't become Admiral of the Fleet? Discuss. Or what if Cunningham dies? Or what if, World War I doesn't happen? You've basically cut out a person or event of such importance that you would basically have to do... You'd almost have to get a group of university professors together to even come close to an answer that would do due diligence to the question, at even a basic level.
Nope. I will say I would say you were going strong there until you mentioned, like, stuff like where World War I doesn't happen. Yeah, that one, annoying. The others, though, on the other hand, I actually think are very interesting thought experiments, because especially if they have some basis in reality, then you have something very interesting.
It's very much a case of just replace a single event or X doesn't happen is a really bad question. Because it just leaves the panel free floating.
Yeah, like if you've given us context, that's different.
But say if it's, I don't know, Harold Hardrada kills Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, leading to the Norwegians fighting the Normans over the Kingdom of England. If you were to say, okay, that's a bad question because we've got nowhere to go with it. But it's in the fate of the Kingdom of England. What if Harold Hardrada becomes king instead of William the Conqueror? That's a question we can start to answer.
Yeah, because you've locked in.
Well, actually, we can actually answer the first question as well.
Yeah. So
this is the thing, because Harold Hardrada is probably going to start as a centre on York, and he's not going to race down to London, so he's going to be reorganising his army. William landing when he is probably going to be treated like by a lot of the people who have just had their army sacked as a fortuitous. Here's a king coming in. Instead of him greeted as a conqueror, he might well, with right negotiations, be treated as the hero who's going to save them from Hardrada. And so he gets the support of the Southern Lords. So probably William ends up winning, but it's going to be a very different conquest.
Yeah.
Because instead of him wiping out seniority and taking over, he's going to be invited in. And that's going to change the scenario as a liberator, but it's going to mean he's not going to have the conquered lands to be able to give to his allies because he's not going to kill people to conquer them.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to probably face internal dissent from his Norman lords.
So
which is going to lead to a whole other conflict.
To use the Cunningham one, though, for instance, I actually think that can be still a very interesting one. For instance, it could literally just be as simple as Cunningham is hit by a car and unfortunately passes away, because that is something that could theoretically happen just by any happenstances if they're near a road.
Yeah, what we basically need to know is
then
when.
It's more a case of you don't
We need to
necessarily
know
need the
when.
context behind it. It's more what's happening.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
The
all
real
you need
thing is there is
they
when.
are hit by a car. Say at some point.
No, Dragon, you
How
need
does
to know
the Red
when.
Fleet develop from here?
You
but
need
the
to know
question
when.
needs a second part. It has to be.
No, it does.
For it to be an answerable question, it needs Admiral Cunham gets hit by a car and doesn't take command of the Mediterranean fleet.
When? Yeah.
X person. No, at what point and who replaces him?
Yes, because then
Once
that
we
means
have that, who replaces him?
Yeah.
At what point?
Yeah, you either have to say who replaces him or give us a date when he's hit by a car. Because if you give us the former, then it doesn't matter when he gets hit by a car because we know who's replaced him. If you give us when he's hit by a car, that means we can work out who would replace him.
Yeah, basically, all you need, I would say, the literal most simplistic form of that question is, say, Admiral Cunningham is hit by a car in 1930. That's all that question theoretically needs to be. How does things change?
Basically.
That works. That's why I think those questions work fine. Personally, I actually think the most annoying questions are one where it's blatantly obvious of, yes, this is such a stacked question and you can literally just go and look it up. It's literally right there. It's a one-word answer, practically. Why did we do this?
Cough, Knight.
No, well, okay. Some of Knight's questions can be that.
He's getting better. Bless him, he's getting better.
Bless his heart, but some of the questions last night were not so much leading as trying to walk ahead, pulling ahead of as he was a cowboy.
Right,
also,
so I think
another set of questions that I'll quickly mention is, this is so classified, how are we meant to answer?
There's a reason why I wound things back to pre-1991. It was getting silly.
Which I think is an excellent idea.
It was getting silly.
What do you think of this brand new missile system? It exists.
Yep, and it exists and it do things. There, that's all we can say.
The most annoying question then, it's the ones that are about what if you change something, but the thing you're changing it to, and the thing you're changing is still mostly classified.
Yeah, it's just
not looking at anyone a gunnery officer.
Not being cruel to my gunnery friend.
Cruel.
There's nothing wrong.
No,
cruelty to gunnery.
We're not being cruel. We're being
poor gunnery officer.
Look, if you're in the audience, you're in the splash zone. That's the way it works. It's like going to see Shamu. Like, yes, you're enjoying it, but if you're in the audience, you're in the splash zone. It comes with risks.
No, what? Have you been to SeaWorld and actually seen Shamu Fleet?
Okay, yes. Question: what the hell's a SeaWorld and what's the hell's a Shamu?
Shamu is probably the most famous orca that has been alive. In particular because it had a bent dorsal fin. It also was the orca which played in the film Free Willy.
Mm-hmm.
It is. They were incredibly popular. They were an incredibly popular attraction in SeaWorld. And basically, the whole point is you go and sit in the splash zone because you want to sit in the splash zone.
No, insanity rages at the wiki. Your question, no questions get skipped. I get to all of them eventually,
This
whether
is
in the catch-up.
False.
Wait.
No questions get skipped intentionally.
You're telling me. You're telling me people paid extra and sought out to sit in the splash zone of an orca's bathwater.
No, because you don't pay extra for it. You just choose to sit there. I used to go to SeaWorld a lot.
Some people did. Some people, were trying to push in.
Right.
Hard.
So, without further ado, it seems like we are ready to move on to normal questions. So what we will do is we will start. Thank you everyone for putting up with my little diversion for the first 50 minutes. It's very much appreciated. But for now, let's get back to normal operations. Timu Locker asks the panel on Patreon. The panel's favourite sailing ship of all time, non-military. Honestly, I am fond of the Clippers. Cutty Sark in particular.
They're cute.
Basically.
I have a soft spot for a 64. I like my third rates, but the 64s just
No, it has to
It has to be
non-military.
non-military. It was.
Can't be military. It's got to be.
non-military.
Yeah, it's got to be
Oh, I'll
non-military.
take a snow then.
Yeah, not a bad shout.
I'll be honest, I'm not that big a fan of sailing ships in general. Like, they exist, they're neat and all. I've been to the various tall ships races when they've been in Newcastle. They look cool, but give me something with an engine any day. I wouldn't really be able to name you a non-combat sailing ship off the top of my head, unless you go for the really obvious ones.
Okay. This one's a bit more controversial, but Jesus of Lubeck.
Ooh, well, hang on. No,
She spent time as a warship, but she spent most of her career as
a large merchant. She did, yeah.
a large merchant ship. Specifically, there's a really good book about her and the establishment of the slave trade, because she was one of the first slave ships.
Mm.
And there's a lot of very interesting and very dark history there that never gets talked about.
When it really kind of should be, in a little bit of a way.
Yeah. Because the Germans like to forget they were involved in the slave trade.
A lot of countries like to forget.
I'm currently down checking out people who've been pinging me. Guys, don't ping me unless you need me to deal with something important, please, in the chat.
You've heard him. Ping
right.
him.
I think part of the problem, Fleet, is they are pinging you so that you interact with the chat more.
The problem is I need to keep
I
track of
understand
where
that
I
you need
am
to look- I
in
understand
terms
you
of
need to
questions.
look- I understand that, but you can understand then if they're trying to actively talk and interact with you,
I'm trying.
why they are
No,
pinging you.
do
'cause
not
you're-
ping. Do
Have
not.
you
No,
considered-
stop it. Not,
Have you
lads,
considered,
please.
You-
Lads.
You have your where you're up to with questions wise on your PC monitor, and then on your phone you have your Discord app, and you see the current chat. So if you keep hearing bidoop 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 as you keep getting messaged, you can then see why they're necessarily responding to you, and you don't lose your place.
That sounds too much like common sense.
I know it's something me and Runon keep getting very annoyed about at you for.
I will play Black Ice with you if you get pinging rights. Sidious, you play Black Ice with me anyway.
Fair enough.
Speaking of which, to be fair, we need to do a multiplayer one of that again at some point, Foxo.
We did that last.
Yeah, but you did that. Yeah, the problem is you did that right after Foxo basically hard crashed. So
Well, that's kind of why we had to do it.
Let me tell you, that round
Foxo's
went.
literally been asking on her server to do a big multiplayer Black Ice game,
Oh, I wish
and
I-
then after she collapses basically of exhaustion, your bright idea is let's do Black Ice.
I didn't know
the
she
game
wanted
she's
to
been
do.
wanting to do for ages.
I didn't know she wanted to do Black Ice. Everyone
I
hates Black
told
Ice.
you this.
I bring it up regularly.
I in fact even
Not to
told you this
me.
on that evening. Yeah,
I did.
I literally mentioned to
Literally.
you that.
When you were starting this new Millennium Dawn game, I bitched about you. So I want to do Black Ice, and you do Millennium Dawn again.
Well, I kind of had to because I was already booted. The way that PC works, I didn't have 2
I mean,
hours to spend.
if we do Black Ice again, don't take it personal, but I want someone else to take over the economy.
No, I'm good.
Well, don't worry, me and Fox will just be playing Britain.
Yes, but for God's sake, do not do what you did
Is
last
Fate-
time.
Believing he's an economist again.
No.
Well,
And the
I'm
thing
familiar with
is,
the Black Ice mod, Dr. Clark.
I am to an extent familiar with it.
Also, well, since Spiteful's also just asked in chat, Black Ice is meant to be a historical immersion mod
Mhm.
with a little bit of fantasy thrown in that because you can do some ahistoric decisions still,
Mhm.
where it's basically meant to be a more realistic, immersive version of a normal Hearts of Iron. One of the things I absolutely love is you can get the Excelsior with 17-pounder in it as your main heavy tank, and that was wonderfully silly. I
Let you
like
make
this
like
idea.
4 of them before I moved production back.
No,
over
we
to
didn't get.
Warcraft.
No, we didn't get that far in that game. But
Oh, we just
also-
got normal Alexa.
we didn't even get Excelsior. But in particular, it's a very interesting mod. And Fleet likes playing Germany and getting a whole bunch of people to help act as his various field commanders.
yeah, I can attest
This
to that.
doesn't go well for Fleet. In fact, I've
Sometimes
yet
it
to
goes
hear of a
well.
time where he's actually won.
Well, we nearly won.
How many people died at Stalingrad?
Okay, there might have been 13 battles of Stalingrad, but hey, we held it 12 times.
Yeah, 13 Battle of them and 15 of Moscow. I mean,
The fact is the Russians couldn't push us back and didn't push us back before the game ended. We're still stuck outside Moscow with Leningrad in our hands in 1946.
That's actually a thought I've just had that I need to check. Is that actually a historical thing that happened?
And our armies got encircled in Stalingrad several times. Courtesy of the SS.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
One of my favourite little minor decisions in it is, for like 2 civilian factories, you can recommission HMS Argus in like 1937.
Yeah.
Which is just adorably cute that you get Argus back into the fleet, and it's not a very good carrier, but it's a carrier. Will fit that works with your convoys.
Is she envisioned as she was historically as a drone carrier, though?
No, because not at this point. It's the whole thing where she gets like 12 to 20 planes, depending on configuration.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like us to move back to. I can't believe I'm saying this. I enjoy Black Ice discussions as much as the next man, but we need to move back on to trying to grind through the questions, if that's possible.
Oh, you're not doing that. You're not doing that.
I've got to try.
Very well, then let's go.
Typical Officer on Discord asked, do you think the Abrams getting a gas turbine was because of Chrysler's history of their interest in gas turbines for ground vehicles? And why do most people bash the Abrams for having a gas turbine? I don't think people bash the Abrams for having a gas turbine. I've not heard that.
Do.
I think I've heard
it's the
some,
same
but it's
sort
not
of people
major.
that will call the V2 engine of the T80 a strong, reliable engine.
Yeah, right.
Don't pay it any mind.
Yeah. But as for why the Abrams got a gas turbine, I think it was out of a desire for power to weight and acceleration, from what I'm aware. And also
Not
because of
really.
power generation as well.
Kind of. It's also fuel commonality.
Yeah. Okay.
You can
Which
run an
logistics?
Abrams off Avgas.
Logistics, the key of any army's to survival.
Uh-huh.
Ooh. That's a question we're not going to get to for a while, but I like that question, Minecraft Watcher.
Funny thing that there's not... Oh, yes, it is a good question. We're actually gonna... There's not that many YouTube questions, Dragon. There's not that many YouTube questions, Dragon.
There is.
No.
And there's some pretty long ones.
There's only 7 so far.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, no.
That takes a while.
Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah,
there's a lot more. There's a lot more than I...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Whoops. Timu Locker asks, when will Fleet have the Hosh in World of Warships? 1, I don't really play World of Warships that much.
Yes, this was the one I could answer instantly.
2, Hosh doesn't exist.
Hosh will never
It's never
exist. Right. Hosh will never exist
Yet.
in World of... No, Hosh will never exist in World of Warships solely
She's too
because of
early.
one made...
Yeah, she's
Like,
too...
even beyond any joke.
No, she's too early, Dr. Clark.
Okay.
It'd be like putting an Admiral class
no,
ironclad in.
actually, there is something which we were chatting about a long time ago, and they might do it, they might not. But there was a long time ago. I remember hearing a chat about maybe them doing a special earlier period, but we'll see what happens.
At most, it'll be a temporary event. It won't be a permanent thing, and you're probably not getting Hosh then.
Yeah.
Mostly because
Hosh
is
I
awful
think
design.
they would, because in nicest way they do Hosh just for the joy of having Fleet with Hosh.
Yeah, but they
That's-
won't force their animators to animate it.
You have to realize the joy they have of working with the academics who we don't
I don't
get
have
paid
that much influence.
what we do,
Please.
but they do. We do become quite friendly with them, and they do like to try and wind us up. As I'm fairly certain there is something which could end. There is something that they have all sorts of ideas for things that could eventually happen, including something to wind up Fleet.
So Tung asks on Discord, was there a way for the Entente to succeed in the Gallipoli campaign to very, very, very quickly cover a topic? And I'm highlighting this for my colleagues because I know they could talk for hours on this, but to very, very quickly cover it, the way you succeed in the Gallipoli campaign as the Entente is you don't telegraph it by by showing up earlier in 1914 and shooting up the straits. If you don't do that, the Turks don't learn what's wrong, and they also don't get help from the Germans to reinforce their defences, which makes Gallipoli not only practical, but possibly almost a guaranteed success.
You also want to slow down in the Levant.
Yes.
Also,
moving
heads
on.
Up, Fleet.
Yes.
You've technically speaking got a missed question, but this one isn't your fault for once.
Wow. Interesting.
In particular, it's Zuikaku's one that they accidentally deleted because Discord did it funny. So I'll just send you it. It'll be, I think should be the next Discord one, theoretically.
Right, okay.
Also,
don't think so. I'm still
between
back
gunnery
up
officers. Yeah, it was the second question.
Everyone asked, panel's opinions of the dumbest Sith fleet or ship designs.
I still absolutely despise their interdictor, and honestly, the ship I probably hate most for the problems it causes in the lore, and this is going to get me basically lynched, is the Harrower. Because, to me, the Harrower class is a perfect example of someone who's looking at Star Wars in the modern day and going, this is a really cool ship design. Which it is. Big Imperial Triangle. Now, let's go back 6,000 to 8,000 years and just make it again.
Well, the thing is, that was the first Big Imperial Triangle. It's the Big Imperial Triangle that all of us are based on.
But it wasn't, though, our timeline-wise. And do you see why this causes problems when you've now taken this ship, which is so very distinctly modern, and put it so far back in the past that you have to go, held up, why is this design appear once and is renowned as a terrifyingly effective starship, then completely disappear until modern day?
I mean, it kind of disappears because it disappears because when the Sith Empire falls, the Republic does a very good job of destroying the Harrower class because they want to remove them from the galaxy.
But on the other hand, though, designers would be going, that's an effective design.
Well, funny thing is, you do see ships of similar size come out. It's
not
in
the design.
No, but in terms of the size, it does. And bear in mind, this
isn't a thing about
size.
It's not about size, it's about design.
Form.
It's anachronistic in the same way of. Alright, has anyone seen? Right, there's a series about the fall of Constantinople. I think that's on Turkish TV.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're going to be talking about.
And the Roman uniforms are the Roman uniforms of the 2nd century. And their uniforms are done really well, but it's so anachronistic it ruins the entire vibe.
Thank you.
But in the original movie, in Gladiator, from the time set, the armor is from a couple hundred years in the future. So if you know what you're looking for, it absolutely ruins it. Because it's also anachronistic.
It's just like, don't get me wrong, I actually love the Harrower design. It is a beautiful ship. But I have the same problem I have for Star Trek, of now that we've got all this more advanced technology and can make things look so much better, now that we keep going backwards in time, the ships of earlier time periods are looking more advanced than stuff of the modern day. And while Star Wars has a big problem with tech timelines, I know, it's just a really case of this feels like it shouldn't quite be here.
The Washington with an AR-15.
The Republic stuff makes sense. It's noticeably very different. It's incredibly different to what we've currently got. But on the other hand, we've then got basically, what if we take a Victory 1 Star Destroyer and put it 8,000 years ago?
And it's also the whole idea which goes with Star Wars concept of the technology is not progressing.
Which I have so many issues with.
Yep.
I mean, it is, but it would be like, it's just, the technology is progressing, it's just comparing a turbo laser, it's like comparing a 18-inch naval gun with a 12-inch naval gun. They're both naval guns, but it's the same thing with Star Wars. Comparing the turbo laser, the heaviest turbo laser on a Imperial 2, with the turbo laser on a early model Venator, it's not the same weapon.
But it's close enough to be wrong. To be
I would argue that it's not.
It is. It is and primarily speaking, the Sith turbo laser is a Tabana gas-fueled munition that creates a bolt of plasma to be carried by a laser over a distance.
Yes.
The modern Imperial turbo laser is refined Tabana gas used as an ignition catalyst to create plasma to fire a bolt of plasma over a laser.
Yes, that's all very true, but the damage one system can do is exponentially higher than the damage the previous system can do.
But in terms of how they actually work, though, there's not really any difference.
Well, yes, but that also applies to the real-world example I gave. How the 12-inch gun...
But the counterpoint is, though, these are the same size gun. This is more comparing a 12-inch to a 12-inch.
Well, again, in that case...
It's more comparing a 12-inch 47 to a 12-inch 50.
In fact, I'd argue that the 12-inch... I mean, look at... Let's
there is definitely an improvement. Foxer, let me finish.
Let's compare the 12-inch gun as found on something... Let's compare the 12-inch gun as found on the original Admiral-class Ironclad for the Royal Navy with the 12-inch gun found on the Alaskas. They're both breech-loading 12-inch guns that use a form of powder to propel a armor-piercing shell over range to strike a target. But one weapon system is farcically more capable than the other.
But these two turbo lasers have the exact same capabilities and almost the same performance.
That's kind of a limitation.
Yes, the new one is definitely definitely slightly better. But again, it's the whole anachronistic thing of you've basically put something here that really shouldn't be.
I mean, it's one of those things where
the difference between these two sets of turbo lasers are like the difference between Conqueror's 120 and Chieftain's 120. Or Chanju 1's 120.
I don't really think
they're that close in performance specs. Time hasn't really passed.
Not really. In terms of ballistics, arc, and range, they might be fairly similar. But in terms of hitting power, not really.
But again, that's the ammo, not the gun. Primarily.
Yeah.
It's like that's what my whole point about the refined Tabana gas versus Tabana gas.
And it's like it's like tech hasn't really passed in the last 8,000 years.
Well, and whilst YouTube Mind Watcher is talking about the genocide and various things which happened, I don't think that gets rid of tech the same way.
Yeah. So, also, since I just saw this in the chat, Reaper, do not go out and buy a jar of pickles if you are allergic to pickles. Even as a joke, don't, just in case something does go wrong.
Why
yes.
Why was Reaper going to buy pickles?
Because basically, I dare Sea Dodders to do a complete refit of HMS Dreadnought. If he does so, I will eat a jar of pickles in return. What time period? 1940s. Sea Dodders just, shall we begin then?
Yep.
Don't call Sea Dodders bluff on this.
Yeah,
because Sea Dodders will find it amusing and will usually create some pretty good work.
So, anyway, this is something where we should probably move on. Right, so, I am going to answer this question, but in order to, I'm actually going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to ask Dragon to, would you mind, please, explaining why I am not annoyed, but it's a symptom of a problem. And I keep bringing it up, and people keep not listening.
So, right. And this is not directed at anyone in particular. I suspect they probably will know very quickly the question. basically, there is a question here about an alternative history of the Battle of Leyte Gulf with a large amount of preamble, but the problem is it then includes questions 1, 2, and 3 on said scenario. These said questions are not necessarily quick and easy ones, so it's not where you can go
It
like,
sounds
this is what
like
happened.
more of a question for my patron, to be honest.
It's very much this is 3 or 4 questions, if not more, disguised as one to a degree.
Reading it, it looks more like what my patron is for. When people submit it, and I spend about 3-hour video going through it.
The problem isn't the question itself. The problem is that it's blending 3 different questions together. And because of the way it's laid out, I have to either answer all of them or answer none of them.
Yeah.
And while I will answer all of them now, this is a thing for the future. This goes for everybody. This is not okay. This is giving someone 3 questions when everyone else is getting 1.
Try and avoid it if you can, basically. Is
right.
The best way of putting it, Fleet.
Yes. I'm being very neutral in this. But I'm making it clear now. Don't want to see stuff like this again. Because it's not fair to everybody else.
Or find a way to split it out into multiple questions that can be asked separately.
Yes, that's also the way you can do it.
Quick question, Fleet.
Yes.
Can I do my thoughts there?
No. Yet. No. Later.
Or, alternatively, you could set up a system through Ko-fi, etc., if they wanted to pay a sort of something like a larger amount, one-off, of I will do this as a special video if you pay this amount.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to be working on in future. It's something I've been thinking about for some time. But like I said, like this month, this whole period of the year from now through to the end of September, beginning of October, this is basically a period of massive change. I've got a lot of projects I need to do in terms of real life and the trip to Japan and everything else. So the channel will basically be running on basics for now, and that includes everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I get back from Japan with the new PC and everything that will then be set up and running and everything else, there will be massive changes in terms of the way funding works, in terms of the way the Discord works, in terms of the way... There's going to be a massive revamp come the end of the year as we go into the autumn. But...
That reminds me. Hire Samurai to bully Fleet into getting models.
But, no, I don't have the money.
Don't worry, Drac will do that for free, you don't need to pay him.
I don't have the money, and I politely don't have the time.
It's Japan. Do you know how cheap their models are there?
I don't have the money.
It's wondrous.
Scraping together enough spending money to support myself when I'm out there is going to be difficult enough. And
you can buy full-scale model kits for less than a coffee. Yeah.
Scraping together £1,000 to support myself while I'm out there out of my own finances is going to be difficult enough. I'm going to have to rely on the charity. I'm also going to have to rely on the charity of basically the rest of Shipshape to get me out there and get me back, and also for hotels and everything else. Financially, I can't afford it.
Yes, it is a fair point.
And right. There's hopefully going to be...
But you should get models either way. It's cheaper than Greg's.
Do you have any idea how much I'm going to have to do? Do you have... Yes. So this question. So, Japan. So this is the whole long question. Give me a minute. This shouldn't take too long. Japan does not send its remaining ace pilots from the carriers to die in Rabaul in 1943 and instead send them all home to train the new pilots. They cancel the construction of Shinano outright and allocate those men and resources to speed up the construction of new carriers coming down the pipeline. Taiho was commissioned in 42 and trained to cruise up. Amagi and Unryu commission in mid-44. Japan does not commit the fleet to Siam. Consolidate their land-based aircraft to hit the Americans when they go for Formosa and the Philippines. Halsey still raids Formosa but faces double the enemy aircraft that he faced before. First question is, does Halsey lose any carriers outright to sinking or heavy damage and needing to go back to the States?
What tactics are the Japanese doing?
That would be the thing, yeah, we don't know. If they're just doing normal strike operations and not kamikaze, double the aircraft will probably... It's going to put more strain on the air wings, but I wouldn't expect losses. I'd expect perhaps one carrier damaged enough to have to go back to Pearl, with another one maybe going to the forward operating base the Americans
got a
have.
set of dice.
I'm not.
That's pretty much what your best option.
Yeah.
Because
Option.
airstrikes tend to be a roll of the dice, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, but so Halsey still wins. His forces are exhausted. Invasion of the Philippines as planned occurs. Operation Shogo is launched. In this new operation, Ozawa's mobile fleet now has 7 carriers: Taiho, Unryu, Amagi, Shikaku, Zuikaku, Hiyo, and Junyo, and 4 light carriers: Zuiho, Chitose, Chiyoda, Ruyo, with well-trained and some even combat experience, full-strength air groups, and well-trained crews. He only has the fast escorts, as his job is to lure Halsey off because he's faster now. He arrives several hours before the main surface fleets do. Nishimura now has Issei and Hyuga, along with Fuso and Yamashiro, presumably unconverted. Kurita has the regular order of battle. In this alternate battle of Leyte Gulf, Ozawa manages to lure Halsey north during the night and engages in the Philippine sea style in the morning with a massive air attack. Halsey is out of range to hit Kurita in the Sibian Sea. Admiral Kincaid gets scouting reports from the Taffys that 2 large fleets are approaching him in a pincer. So the first thing I'm going to get to before I answer the next question is this. Why on earth is that mobile fleet a distraction? Why is that not the main hammer? Why are the
that size force? It would be the main hammer. It wouldn't be the main. It would be the main hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Why is that not the hammer blow coming down on Halsey's head, distracting him from the battleships closing in on the landing forces? This should really be the other way around. Question 2. Okay, who does Kincaid send Ollendorf? Does he throw him against Nishimura or Kurita? It's still going to be Nishimura. He has 5 standard battleships against the Issei, Hyuga, Fuso, and Yamashiro, plus all the assets he had historically. Those battleships are still going to die doing very little. It's important to stress the amount of overkill that was thrown against Fuso and Yamashiro historically. That force is just going to obliterate them, even if they've got Issei and Hyuga along with them. The Taffy forces have to divide their air groups to hit both fleets. So no battleships are outright sunk, but some are damaged with the losses of a few cruisers. How do you think this chosen battle goes? Does it last
this is
longer
a random question, but
yeah.
Do you have a mailing address set up? Because people are asking me about it, because they want to be able to send you stuff.
I don't have a mailing address set up. I was not planning on doing that for some time.
Okay.
Because it's never come up before. But in regards to, does it last? So assuming that basically everything goes as historical. It's important to bear in mind that the Taffy 3 doesn't throw Kurita back with air power. The air power is a nuisance to the ships, but the majority of the damage in throwing Kurita back, that's the destroyers and the destroyer escorts. And you've not changed anything in regards to that. So Taffy 3 probably still succeeds in achieving that objective. Which means that Ollendorf has smacked 4 Japanese battleships for no losses, and Kurita has to retire with his force, same as usual. In regards to the carrier battle, is it blood in the Philippine Sea? Yes. It is a fair stand-up fight between 2 massive carrier fleets. It will be a battle unlike anything we've ever seen, and didn't see historically. It's a carrier action that, I mean, I'm not wrong there, Clark. If we're talking experienced combat experience and trained Japanese air crews across 7 full-size fleet carriers and 4 light carriers against Halsey's forces available at Leyte, that's a carrier engagement that's just unprecedented.
That's almost a fair fight. But you have to also understand that, in a nice way, if the Japanese are fulfilling such a large force...
Yeah, the Americans will bring in more.
The Americans will bring in more, but also there might be more sent from elsewhere, because that's going to be quite a big problem, that force.
Yeah. I mean...
That's going to be a significant capability.
Yeah.
In the nicest way, that might be enough force that the Americans turn around to the Brits and go, do you have a nice way? This is going to be ready. Do you have a large fleet carrier you can loan us with your fighters?
Yeah, it's just that is you
because
have to stack
it's a
the
case
deck.
of having some the Brits. The advantage the Brits give you is that the Americans are better at better at the sort of the strike especially in the daytime, and the speeder aircraft. The British have an advantage in that all their air crew are all weather capable. They're all able to fly at night.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way: the USN hadn't got to the point of training all their crew to fly at night till well after World War. Their crew to fly at night till after World War II, because the way they expanded and how quickly they expanded it, because they hadn't got them all trained to fly at night prior to the war. Whereas the British, who are obsessed with night operations, had gone to the expense of training all their air crew. So all their air crew were trained. It was part of the standard training. So they kept that up through the war.
Yeah.
They kept up the night capability.
Yeah.
But the other advantage the British have is, honestly, when it comes to fighter coordination, fighter tactics, they look at things just slightly differently than the Americans, and it's different enough that it's beneficial to have both operating alongside each other, because you catch the enemy in the trap, because they set themselves up to fight you the way they think you're going to fight you, and then they find a force which is behaving in a slightly different way, and that throws them off. And that gives you an ace in the sleeve. It's not one's better than the other. I want to clarify that. It's a case of they're both good, very good from slightly different perspectives, and therefore together they present quite a trouble for you to deal with, basically.
Yeah, just very quickly before I take a 2-minute break and hand over to my colleagues for the next question. I did apply the patch, Ruinon. I did, in fact, apply the patch. I don't know why it's not working. I'll have to have a look at that after we have done. But very quickly, nice quick question for the panel to answer while I take a 2-minute break. Knight6831 asks, would the last 4 of the 12 Danai or D-class light cruisers have been used as testbed cruisers if they had not been killed off by the end of World War I?
Yes. Just like the E-class were. They'd all been slightly modified and slightly changed over. Because that was the perfect opportunity. They're a good enough design to be useful, and you could make slight changes. There's a reason why one of the E-classes has a twin 6-inch turret. You know, they probably do some things with the Ds as well. Probably test them out as AA cruisers. Anyway, next question. Dragon? Shall we see how many questions we can get through before Fleet gets back?
Sure.
Yeah. So what's the next one?
It'd be nice if Dragon was here.
Yeah. That's just me and you, Fox, is it? Oh, we can have fun then.
Yay.
Oh, you and I left alone. This is scary for people. Alright then. Let's see. Where are the questions list?
Yeah, my link to work to it. It's thrown on still in the chat. No.
Yes. No.
No.
Yeah, she is.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Could you DM us a link to the question doc? Because you should have a link to it as well.
It's in Panamonkey, isn't it?
Stream Q&A. Aha! YouTube Minecraft watcher. What does Iron Brew taste like? And as for my question yesterday, can I in America get regular Iron Brew?
You can. You can buy it from Amazon. And what does it taste like? Honestly, Iron Brew is its own flavour. But I tend to describe it as... It's... to an extent, almost like slightly bitter but still sweet oranges. With sort of almost a bit of a candy aftertaste, but it's strangely refreshing. And it's really, really nice. And I just can't really describe it, because Iron Brew is one of those few flavors, kind of like Coca-Cola, which is actually so individual that nothing else tastes quite the same. You know, Iron Brew...
we answering
the other advantage of Iron Brew, I would say, is that and this is something which my cousins will say to us, is that every time people have tried to spike their drinks which have Iron Brew will turn a funny colour. I'm not sure if that always is the case, but certainly from my cousins, when people tried it, Iron Brew goes a funny colour very quickly. So, I'm not sure how effective it is. That's just what my cousins have told me from their travels over the years.
I've had it where someone's tried to put NyQuil in one of mine.
Yeah.
And luckily, Iron Brew goes from this sort of dark orangey colour to looking like someone's taking a piss and really needs a large amount of water.
Yeah.
And it's like... It's really good for a night out, actually.
What have you done to my Iron Brew? Yeah, it's the thing is, a lot of my cousins said do drink this stuff because of that. I think.
I'm sorry about that.
Although, here's a tip: do not put spirits in Iron Brew.
No,
not a good idea.
So very quickly,
It
now that I'm
becomes really metallic
yeah.
and tastes almost like you flavoured your own blood cherry.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Very quickly. I assume that was you guys answering the question on Iron Brew taste and can you get it in America, right?
Yes.
So that's two YouTubes back to back. So we'll do 2 Discords back to back to get us back to where we should be. Typical Officer asks, thoughts, opinions on the early AH-1 Cobra, the Huey Cobra, especially their deployment during the Vietnam War. Do you think it's not a good helicopter gunship in the 60s and 70s? Do you think it was the British or the Russians that first implemented the tandem cockpit design for helicopter gunships? Well, first of all, the British didn't really operate a helicopter gunship with a tandem cockpit, at least not one produced domestically.
Just adapt our helicopters to do. It wasn't a sort of helicopter gunship. It was, we have a Lynx. Let's see how much firepower we can put on it.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
We sort
and
of
a few other like that.
Yeah, we lean into helicopters as long-range weapons platforms or armed scouts, rather than the helicopter gunship as you would know it in things like the Cobra or the Hind. I think it was
the Lynx could do it.
The Lynx could do it. Do you think it was the British or the Russians?
If you want fear, look up the pictures of the Lynxes with the 6 rocket pods underneath. Harrier carries 4 of those.
Yeah. So, I think actually the Cobra was the first to come up with the tandem cockpit concept. The Russians followed suit with the later versions of the Hind, because the Hind, remember, was first created with a side-by-side cockpit. It only got its distinctive bubble canopies in later models, after the A. The Huey was an absolutely incredible helicopter gunship, and its adaptability shows in the fact that the Marine Corps keeps it in service to this day, as the Viper. It's a changed aircraft since its earlier iterations, but it's still knocking around. It's a very good helicopter, very adaptable. I definitely wouldn't say it was that it was bad.
It's awesome.
Typical episode again. It's a nice way just to hammer through the questions. Do you think the 90mm or 120mm recoilless rifles are the stopgap portable or vehicle installable platform to destroy tanks effectively before the introduction of ATGMs? And do you think the L6 Wombat is the best recoilless rifle for the AT role in the 50s to the 70s? Well, they weren't stopgap weapons. They just were the next iteration of tank-killing devices. They were the follow-on from things like anti-tank guns. And to be fair, they didn't completely replace the anti-tank gun, depending on which army you were in.
And the anti-tank guided missile didn't completely replace them either.
No.
Because they're still around and still very useful. The Carl Gustav is quite a beloved weapon system. Yeah,
recoilless rifles moved... And also, politely, recoilless rifles are extremely good for fire support as well. You mean to tell me that me and 2 blokes can move a 120 HE thrower that can do decent fire support over a couple of kilometers distance and be a direct fire asset with just us and a small parachute? Or we can sling it under even something like a gazelle. Okay, sign me up. Or we can just strap it to the back of a Land Rover and move it around. It's just mobile. It's a mobile gun. It's probably the most mobile gun you can get. Right, so back to normal.
Like a word we fleet.
Pardon?
Pack howitzer would like a word we
Pack howitzers, compared to pack howitzers, recoilless guns are usually easier to break down and move. Specifically because you don't have to break them down as much.
Are we thinking the same pack howitzers here?
Yeah.
No, I'm not even being snarky. Like, genuinely, are we thinking the same sort of pack howitzers here? Because
I can't think of any pack howitzer that's easier to move, or can be broken, or can be made lighter in as fewer pieces as any recoilless gun. A recoilless gun is literally a tube with a stand and a sight. That's it.
No.
yes.
All right, put your money where your mouth is.
You treat a recoilless gun like that, it'll blow up in your face.
I am not gonna.
Guns are incredibly temperamental.
I am aware of that.
And have a very specific procedure. Like, we're talking putting a pin in the wrong place will cause it to blow up in your face. Level of procedure. They're not quick breakdown weapons. They're not like an ATGM launcher. They are still, a lot of the time, several ton of gun.
I'm looking in Theatre at Sea, and I'm looking at the pack howitzer, and I'm looking at what Spiteful Ghost of ABC has posted, and I'm betting you that one of those weighs more to move, even when broken down. And I said, and it ain't the Wombat.
You'd be surprised.
Also, yes. Honourable mention to the recoilless rifle Vespa. The Italian Airborne's favourite ghost shooting machine.
There is a reason the recoilless rifle has gotten the way of the dodo.
I mean, it hasn't.
It has.
No,
It hasn't.
not really.
The Carl Gustav is around. The SPG-9 is still in fairly common use. The Chinese have some examples they field and export.
Yeah, but most of them fire ATGMs nowadays.
No, most of them
Or guided munitions.
No, a lot of them still do fire dumb rounds.
In general, I would say, though, like, beyond what rounds they fire, in general, no, recoilless rifles are still very much still around these days.
And also, I would point out that I understand where Fox was coming from, though. The mass proliferation period has passed.
Yes.
Yeah, I would argue nowadays they're more legacy systems.
Not really.
I would argue they are a system which is probably going to find its way coming back quite heavily soon. Because as we think more and more about what kind of forces are suitable for area denial and for defensive operations, recoilless rifles, which the thing is when they fire, one of the advantages of them is that they don't need any. There's no chance. You don't need any guide wires, which you don't really need for most of the anti-tank guided missiles anymore these days. Anyway, but there has been some discussion about that for some reason. In an electronic warfare environment, they don't leave a smoke trail, and they can be easily portable, broken up by two people, and they can evade a lot of the things which people are worried about detecting them, and therefore you can fire them. And they do offer a range of things, because you can, if you consider the Carl Gustav, its current warheads include various versions of high explosive, thermobaric, area sort of defense munitions with flechettes, some rocket assisted projectiles and Tannin warheads, smoke rounds, illumination rounds. They have all sorts of interesting systems they have, and of course various high explosive anti-tank rounds. So the thing is, I could see it, and I think it probably is going to be coming in more, especially if you consider India has just placed a massive order for them. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Britain and a few other nations soon get involved in it.
To quote a certain Australian PowerPoint man, Pavel and his mates can pick up the old SPG-9 and move it around with them, along with a couple of rounds of ammunition, in the back of their old ute.
Well, the fact is, the British have been active whilst they were giving the M2 and various other things to Ukraine. They've been actively procuring the M4 variant of the cargo stuff to replace their stocks. And yeah, we're probably going to also be replacing. We're probably going to sort of keep stocking up on NLAW and Javelin and a few other things as well. But the thing is, it's also having the variety of options. That's the thing is, if you focus in on one system, it might be the best system. But if you, as I've talked about before, we talked about the whole World War II. What happens if the Germans entirely invest in submarines and don't build any surface ships at all? That, there are a lot of people who then go, well, they would have won the war. And I go, no, they wouldn't have, because in a nice way, they've just made themselves a single-dimensional threat, which the Royal Navy would go, that makes our life easy. It literally does. If your only threat is submarines, then we need some destroyers and we need some cruisers, but that's all you're going to do. We need some, well, we don't need even cruisers. We just need some destroyers and we need some sloops and corvettes. We just flood the waters. We can send off the cruisers, the battleships, the carriers to go and do the jobs in the Mediterranean and elsewhere in the world. You make their life easy.
Yeah, right. So,
Just,
next question is an interesting one, and my answer may surprise some people. YouTube Minecraft Watcher asks, if the panel suddenly finds themselves in Sarajevo on July 28th, 1914, what will you do with hindsight? Nothing. I will find a good point and sit and watch history unfold. Because politely, the consequences of changing it are far more horrifying to me than letting what I know play out.
I'm going to run to Britain at the moment Fisher has any idea or suspicion of trying to build what would become Courageous, Glorious, and Furious. Whack him round the head hard.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
If you don't get Courageous, Glorious, and Furious... carriers.
Right.
The clock. The carriers.
Yeah,
I'll get the admirals. I will do other things. I've already answered this question yesterday.
In fact,
there are other ways I will find it. Yes.
As much as I do like Courageous, Glorious, and Furious as carriers, because that is their only useful use. I like their service as carriers.
Honestly, yeah. If I can get the Courageous and Glorious class built as flat deck carriers from the start, that would be funny. But politely, politely, to answer the spirit of the question, in terms of, like I say, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna find somewhere to watch it all happen. Out of more macabre interest than anything else, because politely, the history I know is better to me than the history I don't know.
This is true, and I entirely agree with you. Apart from one minor dark thought which crosses my head. I've already seen what happens once, so just letting them do it again would be boring. Why don't we see what happens if things change?
I don't think so.
I would be very curious to see what happens when things do change around you. Also, if you stepped in to, save him, they'd probably be pretty grateful to you. They'd probably be more confused that, why is there this random British person talking
in weird clothes,
acting like this, in very weird clothes with very odd lot of things. But also, they should be relatively grateful of, you just stopped someone trying to shoot me.
Yeah, you've just saved the heir to the Austrian Empire.
Yeah, so theoretically speaking, they should at least be reasonably indentured to you of, okay, right, we're not going to immediately throw you in a prison. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, no, I try and get to Britain. And while I'd like to also do Navy stuff, honestly, the more amusing one to me would be teach the Royal Armoured Corps about tanks earlier. To get, instead of getting Mark IVs, if we can get something with a proper turret. And yeah, this is how tanks roughly work from what I'm aware of. These will work better.
Do you remember tanks were first built by the Royal Navy?
Yeah.
Technically?
Anyway, before
Yes.
we get into a massive rabbit hole, before we get into a
He's got His
One
Majesty's
thing.
Landship Mother, I think.
one thing, Foxo, one thing. Go.
You're all doing this while I'm trying to figure out how do I get someone to actually listen to me in a
Yes.
foreign land without sounding insane as a young woman.
Yeah, you've got problems in that regard. I will be
Yes,
entirely
because-
honest.
Because unfortunately you are a woman in 1910s era Europe. Good luck.
Oh, it means that you're all likely to go to the Western Front.
Oh no, I am not. No, I'm finding somewhere to watch it all unfold, and then I'm booking it.
Going to the Western Front.
No, I'm
please.
booking it. I'm out of there. Like I am.
Like,
I'm
hitting
gone.
the knees his men. We're not giving you a chance. You are going to the
I ain't
Western
going to
Front.
the
Nope, sorry, if
UK.
I'm getting forced into any conflict, I am going into the Navy.
I mean,
Like,
I
fine,
suppose.
I'll do that.
I suppose. I mean, the Royal Flying Corps always accepts volunteers. I suppose I can join the Royal Flying Corps.
Dragon joins the Royal Navy, finds he's posted to HMS Hogue.
It's got to be better than the Western Front.
Cressy, Abercurn, Hogue. What
I
happens to
could
them?
become a spy.
What?
Uh,
Yeah, I could have. What? The fact they get sunk by submarines.
Yes, submarine,
in one
submarine,
afternoon.
submarine, singular.
Well, single
Yeah, but
silo.
there's multiple.
There is a reason why the Royal Navy cruisers all have either hydrophones or ASDIC on them,
Yeah,
and
they,
have some.
that event.
It's because the Royal Navy is absolutely paranoid after losing 3 cruisers in a single afternoon.
Yeah,
At that point on, there is no chance that the cruisers don't have these things.
On the other
that
hand, if I
single
find myself
incident
on these ships now, I can hopefully go. Yeah, we should really be just
going at
keep this
speed.
date in mind and make sure. Yeah, let's do something a bit different.
Yeah. Right. So, next question. Gunner Officer asks, thought process behind the design of the STRV-103. Why do they prefer to have a casemate main battle tank over a normal MBT with a turret? Even without a turret, do you think it's miles better than the M60? Okay, to answer those questions in order of answering, the design process was basically to be hell on earth for the Russians coming down through Sweden. The whole point is the STRV was a tank that could dig its own entrenchments, hide itself in any weather, and basically annihilate any armor coming towards it with being basically either immune to return fire, either because you can't see the damn thing because it has no silhouette, or
The
If
first parts of the survivability onion.
yeah, or if you do find it and fire back, first of all you're probably going to miss because again no silhouette, and secondly the STRV is going to go, right, okay, you're doing that, I'm going to reverse away at speed and you're not going to catch me.
We'll point out
Which it could
one
also do.
minor thing there is that it's not actually a self-entrenching vehicle. That's not actually a feature on it.
But are
It can
there
give its own space.
per
It
unit
can
were
clear its own space to hide.
with dozer blades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which variant of the 103 has the dozer blades?
No, the tank was built with the mounts for the dozer blade.
All they have to
Yeah,
do is
they
fit
were.
it.
Without
They
the
never
factory.
got them in service.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think
if-
that is my mistake.
Well,
Mm,
yeah, they did.
It was literally a
They
modification.
did. And
Because
one of the things was
it
they
was-
were built to take standard dozer blades, which meant that you could. It's going to sound strange. Literally, the idea was the army might have some, but also you could drive the tank, or you could take a truck to a local builder's yard and go, "I want your blades."
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
so...
And considering most of the Swedish army are reservists,
Mm,
they'd probably just bring the dozer blade with them.
why'd they prefer to have a casemate main
Right,
battle tank
nope,
over
found
a normal MBT with a turret? Basically
It's
because
103C, which get it.
basically
Found.
yeah, they get the dedicated dozer blade, but like I said, prior to
Yes.
that they had the options
All-
for
all
the
of
other
them.
makeshift ones. But in terms of why they prefer to have a casemate in a battle tank over a normal MBT, it wasn't a choice. They had both. They had large stocks both in service and in reserve, of various marks of locally built and procured Centurion, which they were going to use for mobility and counterattack, and the STR-103s were there to blunt any offensive into Sweden. By designing the tank the way they did, it's almost a more ideal vehicle for defensive ambush and continual staggered withdrawal, inflicting casualties to the enemy you're probably not going to find. The STRV is the perfect asset for that. And even without a turret, do you think it's miles better than the M60? No, because they're not comparable. The STR-103 is built...
Horses, good lord.
No, it's not even horses for courses.
The STR...
The 103 is built for an incredibly unique environment.
And a very specific doctrine and way of fighting.
If the M60 found itself attacking into that environment against the 103, it would lose. In any other scenario, it would win.
The 103 is not a vehicle you attack with. Unless you are absolutely desperate. It's why the Swedes had large...
don't attack with it. They're too valuable.
Or unless you're the Swedish army.
No, even the Swedes. The whole thing is...
It's what Centurion was for.
Even if we can push, you do
But they still had
push.
the doctrine of how do we push with them.
You can push with 103 if you're not You can push with 103 if you're not expecting armor. If you're expecting things like ATGM and infantry, you can push with 103, but you have to have infantry support. If you're expecting armor, you do not commit. Armor is the one thing that you have to... Because the 103 has the armor packages to resist things like ATGM and heat rounds and infantry AT. And it can make up for its lack of situational awareness with infantry around it. But if you're trying to attack against armor, the 103 can't do it. The 103 just cannot do it. They had manuals for it, but the reality...
manuals for everything. They're an armed force.
Yeah, but the reality of it is...
You can still attack with them, it's just not particularly...
Yes, but it's basically a thrice underlined, do not do this.
Against armor. Like I said, you've got to have specific scenarios for it to work, as I said. But the one thing that you really don't want to do is against armor, because against armor you need a turret. You need the ability to track and engage targets while moving. Or at least
Interestingly enough, I have seen doctrines of them partnering up with Centurions for an attack, whereby you'd move them forward to positions where they cover the line of advance.
Yeah.
And then the Centurion would go forward, triggering it, and the 103s would basically be providing cover.
Yeah, that works.
Combined operations where they sort of team up and they work.
The reason why the 103 suffers compared
to Poodle in the garden.
Yeah. The reason why the 103 suffers compared to other casemate tanks is the total lack of traverse for the gun. That's the that's the reason why it suffers. Because
the idea of turretless battle, a tank is not needed necessarily for that much movement when it's actually in service. In the 60s, you don't necessarily... The whole thing of you have to have the capability to fire on the move isn't so prevalent yet.
It's not so much firing on the move, it's the ability to engage targets off the axis of advance. It's not firing on the move.
But in particular, you did say you need the turret so you can fire on the move.
Yes, and I was going to add... And I was going to add something, but you leapt down my throat.
No, you finished that point and moved on to something else.
That was... The something else was going to be the other thing.
It wasn't even tangentially connected.
If you'd have let me finish, maybe it bloody would have been.
All I'm hearing is cope.
Anyway.
You are coping and seething. You just can't explain what you're seeing.
Anyway, back to YouTube question. Oh, for God's sake, Cox, I swear.
The truth is scalding, and now you are welding and coping.
It was initially funny, but then...
Oh, James is here!
Too far, I'm afraid. And yes, he appeared earlier.
I didn't know... Well, that's my own fault. Sad fleet noise.
You know the whole thing of keeping an eye on...
I'm trying, okay? I'm trying, I'm not perfect!
I've only been here for about 10 minutes now.
Oh, okay, so I'm... hey, my record's not too bad. Whoopee.
Only a part-timer at this point.
Nah.
Also, if
YouTube Minecraft Watcher on...
I don't know why you're expecting that.
YouTube...
You've been here long enough.
What?
YouTube Minecraft Watcher asks, Would it have been practical for the US Navy to have used the 5.9-inch naval gun instead of the 5-inch 51? Hang on.
When?
I'm just saying. I'll just have a look.
What for?
Oh, he means the casemate guns of the secondary batteries on a lot of US battleships. They could have adopted a 5.9-inch secondary battery gun for casemate and open deck use. It's something they could have done, but honestly, the US was trying to. It's something that they did that not many other powers did. They basically decided we're gonna. Like, they kind of rounded on the 5-inch as a caliber they wanted for their secondaries on their battleships. Because the whole thing to remember is a lot of US pre-dreads had primary battery 8-inch, then tertiary battery, which for most of the ships would be the secondary battery.
What 5.9 are we referring to here, by the way?
I don't think there is one.
There isn't a one.
But
when you mentioned about the early US ships, I was trying to figure out which one you're referring to. From a brief look over NavWeps, especially, because I did try and find other way. But NavWeps also doesn't list a 5.9-inch gun ever being in US.
Yes.
Use, basically. At least from late 1800s onwards.
Yeah.
I can find.
But, yeah. The 5-inch 51 was a good, reliable, rapid-fire weapon. Because it was a purely anti-surface mount. And it did good service in that role. Look at the performance they put in on the defense of Wake Island. There's no real tangential gain from moving up to the 5.9. Not really. It's basically part of US doctrine. They valued rate of fire over slightly less hitting power. Whereas most other navies in the Dreadnought and pre-Dreadnought period moved to the 6-inch. Basically, they valued hitting power over rate of fire. Next question.
Why would you use a 5.9 when America already has the 6-inch?
Yeah. Okay, I am officially invoking and I'm going to post it because I actually have it. Thank you, Dragon. Given what I'm seeing, I am officially invoking the Gunnery Officer Protocol. It is now in effect. As we are seeing lots of Gunnery Officer questions in a row, so it'll be one Gunnery Officer question and one other person question going forwards. Right, so what is the next question by somebody that
leave some autism for the rest of us, please, Gunnery.
That's so that will be saved for thingy. How many that's not thingy. Did that one already.
It sounds like you're trying to summon some sort of.
How many times did you destroy Drake's drum, and with who? Okay, first of all, we didn't destroy Drake's drum. We dissected it. We were fairly fair until towards the end, and we were all a little bit tipsy and might have got a little bit out of hand. But for the most part, we were fairly fair to the book. So did that one already. Did that one already. Did that one already, and that one already. Okay, so YouTube question next. YouTube Minecraft Watcher asks. I'm gonna have to put on a YouTube Minecraft Watcher thing at this rate. Question for Dr. Clock. Oh, he's not. Is he here? Well, I suppose we can all answer it.
I am a subpar drink.
YouTube Minecraft Watcher. Question for Dr. Clark. What paper ship from World of Warships would you take to World War II in serverboard? Well, paper ship from World War II from World of Warships. Honestly, I would love to take one of the large Dutch or Spanish cruisers.
Takes my thought.
But but probably it would be the Dutch. It would be the Spanish cruisers. I'd just be sat there in my massive Spanish super cruiser.
Which Spanish super cruiser?
Hang on. I'm just trying to figure it out. Give me a minute. It's been ages since I played.
I know, that's why I'm not really jumping. I'm genuinely curious which Spanish super cruiser. Are you referring to the Tier 9?
No, I'm referring to the Tier 10.
Dr. Clark looks like he's not happy with
I'm pretty
your
sure
opinion.
that one's actively weaker than the Tier 9 Premium, but...
Well, the thing is...
Yeah, because you've got... I would much rather take... what's her name? I've actually got her in game because she's a... Almirante Quendo over Castilla.
Look, I want my big, funny, bigger... I want my 9.2-inch gun.
Yeah, but Castilla has... Right, also, for the record, Fleet, you are actively choosing to take a design that is 25% Russian, 25% Italian, 25% German, and 25% we can't identify what this is.
I don't...
Over a one that's... This is a British design with refit bits from other nations.
This is all very true, and you're absolutely right. You're all getting the right things here. But this is the thing.
You like Hosh, so...
I mean, the reason is basically I would want either the...
Also, tell me Quendo does not look more beautiful than Castilla.
I mean, I'll say it. She doesn't.
Are we looking at the same ships?
Yes. Look, either
Ladies, I think you need to remember that he likes Hosh.
Either and not you as well, shipyard. Either Andalusia or Castilla would be my choices to go into World War II with, because I'd be sat there patrolling the Spanish coast, watching everyone else knock 7 bells out of each other. Which would be nice.
There is something I want to there's a facial expression I want to give to you, Fleet, just to make sure that you completely understand exactly what we're going for.
Oh wait, hang on. 254s. Wait, 254s are 10-inch. Oh wait, nope. I changed my mind.
Yep.
I changed my mind. 10-inch guns. 10-inch.
Friggin' Yulia!
10-inch guns bad. I'm going to the Tier 9. The Tech Tree Tier 9. That's better. I'll have that one instead. I'll have that one instead. But Dr. Clark, the real question is for you: what paper ship would you take into action in World War II from World of Warships to command?
Flag.
Oh, what paper ship? Oh, God. Oh, thank you. I just got a mouthful of poodle paw.
Bonk.
And the poodle stole the camera. The camera.
The camera has stolen the poodle. Oh wait, no, the other way around. Also,
the poodle stole the camera.
Also, whoever got Rishi up, thank you. Also, James, I can see the smug face. I understand. I know the error of my ways.
They're paper ships. I'll take the Malta.
Well, I don't think you can class the Malta as a paper ship because
it was never built.
No, steel was cut for it though.
My World of Warships definition of paper ship is a ship that is never completed. I was either designed and or started being built but was never finished.
And if I'm on a Malta in the Royal Navy at the beginning of World War II, good luck to all the King's enemies.
Yeah.
Okay, dibs on my baby girl, Thunderer.
So
I thought you wanted to talk.
So Dr. Clark.
I changed my mind when I remember Thunderer exists.
So Dr. Clark is showing up in the Royal Navy in Malta. Foxo is showing up in Thunderer. Fleet's showing up in the Spanish Navy with a 9.2-inch armed cruiser, the Andalusia, which is basically which I'm gonna.
I'll probably have to sink at some point.
No, which I'm going to patrol the Spanish coast. And oh, whoops! I guess that Italian cruiser crossed the borderline. Guess I've got no choice but to send it to the bottom. Whoops! Oh well, I had a problem. Oh well, whoops.
You're a fellow fascist power. You won't do anything against the fascist. In fact, actually, now by signing, you have shown us that your true colours by admitting that you supported fascism in World War II, and that's why you want to fight for Spain.
Who said anything about fighting for Spain?
You picked a fascist. You picked a Spanish ship, which were of course the fascist one of the fascist powers at the time.
You can't use that. That logic is so completely broken. It's
Fleet has always had slightly dictatorial tendencies, obviously.
Oh, take a running conk at yourself, Alex.
I should have known. His last name's Felton.
Oh. Oh, for God's sake, why do I bother? Right. So, anyone else want to answer that one, or can we move on?
Ooh. Wouldn't mind having either HMS Plymouth or HMS Goliath / Gibraltar. Which they are the British the latter two are the 9.2 inch heavy cruisers.
Good choice.
You
good
also
choice.
technically also have the Monmouth.
Yes, but Monmouth's new and, well,
Yeah.
the only way you could get it was paying like 50,000 doubloons, so.
Yeah, it's still a paper ship though.
Which is why I just keep forgetting that she exists, because she was in dev hell for like 2 years.
Yeah. She shouldn't have been in the game. She should have been renamed something else and actually had the proper Monmouth model for Tier 3. But, you know, that doesn't sell.
Yeah.
Would Monmouth even fit Tier 3?
It would be
Same
something.
as a Bogota.
Yeah.
Then I guess maybe, but.
Yeah. It'd be a weird ship to play. On Discord, typical gunnery officer asks. But I don't think anyone else is. No, I don't think so. Right. Do you think by the 1980s coastal gun batteries are already outdated and are being replaced by coastal missile batteries? Yeah, pretty much. Nations that have coastal gun batteries that built modern ones, in particular Norway, Sweden, Finland, Vietnam, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they retain a lot of their coastal guns because they do have usefulness. But if we're talking about new procurement for coastal defense in terms of being based on land from the 80s onwards, you're looking at mobile batteries of missiles. Although there are certain niche cases, depending on the ocean and the navy, where you do see mobile naval gun systems procured. The Russians, for example.
I have a sneaking suspicion the Finns are still upgrading their guns, as are Norwegians, and I would not like to say where their guns can now hit.
It wouldn't surprise me either. Like I say, there's a lot of retention of guns. They're outdated in terms of the date they were completed and raw capability to reach out and touch things, but I wouldn't get rid of them either. Okay, it's time for a question of YouTube variety, which in this case...
Gangs to the mountain start speaking 5-inch.
Guns of Navarro moment.
Crimea starts talking with 11-inch guns.
So we did that one. Knight 6831. As the British could get all 3E, all 12D, 31C class, aka all 28. Hang on.
This sounds awfully familiar.
Hang on a minute.
Sounds awfully familiar from last night.
Hang on a minute. 3E, 12D, and 31C, aka all 28. Hang on a minute. That math doesn't make any sense.
No.
And the three. Okay, so I'll read it verbatim. I'll read it verbatim. As the British get all
plus 12.
Yeah.
Plus 3.
Yeah. Okay. I'll read it.
Count, and that's 46.
Yeah. I'll read it verbatim, but just here we go. So as the British should get all 3E, all 12D, and 31C, aka all 28 completed and 3 renames as extra ships, if they were willing to, wouldn't those 45 cruisers not be a worry for the other treaty participants? No, not really. The British have just completed their wartime build-out, and everyone else is going, oh, the British have completed their wartime build-out. Okay.
They're all under 10,000 tons under the Washington Naval Treaty. They're all allowed.
Yeah. I mean, the French are happy because it gives them more breathing room to build up, because, as they say, they're tying themselves, as Dr. Clark says, in the interval period.
There's no limit. There's no limit in the Washington Treaty.
No.
There's only a limit of 10,000 tons on the individual ships.
No. What I'm saying is the French are happy. The French are happy in terms of the fact that the British have more cruisers to patrol the world, and they don't have.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Right.
To be fair, the British probably use it to provide a whole lot of C-class, etc., to people like Canada and Australia.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that would surprise me if they didn't. Okay, so we need a. So we did that one.
You're planning on getting up to naughty things, I know, so I'm going to keep you here and pat you.
Oh my lord.
Right. Just since I'm seeing so many of these, can we, just as a personal thing, can we try and keep the ones where it's listing so many individual ships practically to a slightly lower degree? It makes it slightly hard to format. And also very hard to speak, I can imagine, for fleet.
My breath, it keeps my lungs on my toes.
Yeah, English isn't Fleet's first language.
Hey, just a minute.
French.
Just a minute.
No. He's from Sheffield. They speak demonic up there.
I didn't miss anything. Okay, I did not miss anything. Okay, so that's a nice big jump forwards.
Oh, I know I'm supposed to be feeding you up.
CQ,
this is getting a bit seen.
CQ Prophet asks, a World War I style conflict breaks out in the 1850s. Who are the sides and who wins? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do I have an introduction for you? You know it, you love it, it's the Crimean War! That's literally the answer to that question. The Crimean War was a great power conflict in the 1850s. And it was a fairly... There were naval and land conflicts between all sides. And it had the potential to spiral more than it did. It's about as close to a World War
secondary wars.
Yeah.
Like the wars between Prussia and Austria.
Yeah.
The brother wars.
Yeah, it's about as close to a World War I style conflict as you get in the 1850s.
And China was being China at this point.
Yeah, it basically is. You can see. Let's see. James has it nice. He's getting a lot on natural light.
It is Fleetwood, so it's probably also going to be a radiated light as well.
Oh,
no, I'm just sitting next to a neutron star or something.
YouTube Minecraft Watcher on YouTube asks, how much money could you make if you were sent to 1100 AD with the SS Great Eastern? Oh dear. Oh dearie me. This all sounds lovely until you realise that Great Eastern... Well, first of all, you can't really dock her anywhere. Because she's too big. You can't really load her because no cranes can reach over her sides. Well, workarounds will be found, but it'll be difficult. And you've basically got her until her engines break down. Because under sail, she's an absolute pig to maneuver. And you can't do any fine maneuvering with her.
To be fair, that's a way of describing a lot of 11th century ships.
To be fair, you probably actually can. But there's this very specific route you can probably use her on.
Are you thinking China?
And there are places which have cranes, which are suitable size. China is a possibility, but I was thinking more London to Venice.
That could work. That could actually work. Basically be the final. Basically be the
Shanghai to.
Oh yeah, just cut Venice out. Cut Venice out completely. Basically.
You could do, but where are you going to coal on the way?
Yeah. But you want to stick around China, India.
Well, no, she's Great Eastern. Great Eastern can actually do that. Great Eastern, if she's fully coaled, can do London to China and back.
Okay.
That was what she was built for. She was built to steam without sail from London to Australia. if you add sail as an auxiliary, she can probably make it from London to China.
Yeah, I'd still prefer to have a halfway spot I can coal in.
India. You could probably not quite good quality coal, but you can probably charcoal up in India. You can probably take charcoal aboard.
You've gone to 1100, so there's no Suez Canal.
Yeah. Well, thing is, thing is, Great Eastern was designed not to use it either. She was designed to go round Cape Horn. That was the whole point. So this is actually perfect for her.
I think you probably need about 3 coaling stations on the route. I think you probably want definitely one in Africa.
Yeah.
Probably one in India, and probably one in Southeast Asia, because you wouldn't want to be running out of coal.
No.
It also means that if you've got poorer quality coal, you can use more of it, but you're also going to need to clean your engines.
Yeah.
Those are all going to take time to set up and arrange that sort of infrastructure. So in the meantime, doing London to Venice is going to earn you a lot of money.
There is also West Africa. It's at this point you've got things like the Mali Empire knocking around in the 1100s, or the predecessors to it.
They're not coastal.
No, they don't become coastal for ages, do they? No, yeah.
No. Fleet's plans of world domination.
It's not world domination. It's just
they're falling on the spear of infrastructure.
You've got to remember that
you could do
the West African coast is malaria hell.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. That's a point.
Yeah.
You can. Okay. I'm just
Just
thinking. I'm just
You
thinking.
can also try Novgorod via the Black Sea or something.
Yeah, getting to the Bosphorus is going to be a bit annoying. But it's doable.
Yeah.
It's doable. Baltic's also doable.
But do you really want to take it through any kind of straits like that? Because in nicest way, with the Ottoman Empire being the Ottoman Empire,
it's 1100s.
That's one of the few places where you
Byzantium. It's Byzantium, not the Ottomans.
Yeah.
Even worse.
Yes, but even worse. Even more likely to see your ship as the perfect thing for them to turn into a warship and save themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's also quite often sieges going on there.
Yeah, your idea for a fascist empire in 1100 is not going well, is it, Fleet?
No.
I will at least throw Fleet a bone of here. I don't think this is a one where he's trying to become emperor of the world this time.
That's normally when these things end up in Fleet.
Ooh, new knight. It's a conversion.
As a new knight?
Yeah, with a conversion beamer.
Beam.
Conversion beamer plasma cannon.
Beam. Beam.
Actually, do you reckon you could just get a whole bunch of mercenaries to sell to Mexico?
You honestly could. You could found not Mexico. Yeah. No, not Mexico. You
steal
want to sell
a whole bunch of gold, come back, crash the world economy.
No. Honestly, what I'd do is
Yes.
Honestly, I would actually sail for California. I would stock up extra coal. I would get a bunch of mercenaries and settlers. If I'm going to nation build, I would get a bunch of mercenaries and settlers, as much heavy machinery for the period, given when we are, as I can, as much stone as I can. So I'd pack enough coal for the journey. Because the reason I say California is you've got arable land out there. You've also got not so many diseases and natives. There are natives, but not as many as there are east of the Rockies. You've got valuable strains of minerals out there.
Isn't the coal also a big issue in the 1100s?
No, coal does exist, and also you can get things like charcoal, which, while not burning as efficiently, will still burn well enough to use. Or just, heck, good quality wood will work. It's not going to burn as efficiently, but it'll do.
I'm just worried about those mercenaries in you, honestly. I can see it very quickly degenerating into a putsch scenario where the mercenaries take over. We'll leave that to one side.
Yeah, it was only just a bit of a what if funny moment.
Yeah, obviously you just have an army of women and children.
Oh yeah, because that's gonna work so well, isn't it?
He'd still lose the fight.
Yeah.
Eat
Right.
what I want.
Oh.
This is the bad idea.
Yeah. Look, I think running trade is a good thing. You can just about running trade and that's where you can fight. But you need to be careful about where you're running trade through, especially in 1100. And I think you'd also have to be very, very careful because about the whole religion thing with you.
It's Europe, I know. Hang on, we did this one. I'm fairly certain we did this one, but anyway. Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are in the world in this period. But the thing about going directly to trade with China, which you haven't thought about, is where are you going to get the silver?
Yeah, the Chinese trade in silver.
Yeah. Far easier to take over a portion of that trading route than it is to try and take over that. That trading. So to try and go the whole way to China.
Yeah, if I'm gonna do anything,
Australia.
the best
Just go to Australia.
The best thing to do is to actually.
The emus will destroy him.
If I'm gonna take any part of that route, the place to aim for is India. And funnily enough, probably the route is India to Egypt. Basically, you form a new, faster link than the overland route. So basically, you're not.
I do India to London because that's going to be safer for you, but also
I thought you
it's
said
going to give you access to coal at both ends. You can
that's
do it just about with India to London, but the thing is, what you can do then is because you the distribution networks at either end will funnel into it, so you'll be taking it directly from India to Northern Europe.
Yeah.
So Netherlands, etc. But you won't be taking into the Netherlands.
No.
Which will save you from the whole Spanish Dutch fights that go on in that period. That go on in a few hundred years.
Yeah, and everyone's going to know full well they can't physically try and stop me militarily because they can't board me when I'm at sea. Because good luck. First of all, good luck catching me. But second of all, good luck if you actually somehow have either sat in front of me. Good luck trying to get over the sides.
She does speak quite good at ramming.
Yeah, there is that. Like, she's not going to care.
Okay, get the ship to the Tiberius.
Yeah, she's not even going to take any damage doing it. She's so big compared to them. She's just going to break them asunder.
There is no chat to say PT for you, Fluff.
Yeah.
There's no chat. You can be as cute as you are. There's no one doing PT for you.
No, there is no one doing PT. But yeah, so that's probably the trade. And honestly, both ends can bring up coal because that's going to create a demand for coal mining that will be filled. Because funnily enough, both sides have coal they can access. In England and in that's going to make Norman Britain very, very rich. That's going to make Norman England very, very rich indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. Just watch out for the... Go ahead.
You're going to be funding the conquest of Scotland.
Probably. Oh dear.
Just be very careful sailing across the coast of the Kingdom of Jerusalem and the Mamluks, you know.
I mean, I'm not going anywhere near them. I'm going round the cape.
Avoid that because seeing a black 200-meter long demonic-looking ship in the distance is not doing anyone any favors.
That might drive them mad.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is, that is the one thing, provided, like, once I've built up a loyal following, as in, and by that I mean, you know, people who've sailed with me a few times, you know, ideally from both ends of the route, in terms of people who are more loyal to me than the governments at either end, including people who know how to handle swords and arms and such, then I might feel confident taking on more risky charters. So, for example, if the Pope wants to pay me to land an army in totality in the Holy Land, I would take on that gold. Though the only condition I would have with that would be...
one ship. No. You can't land... The Great Eastern is big, but it can't land a whole army.
In terms of the sizes of the crusading forces, I could probably land a substantial force for that sort of period. 1,000 men.
Not really.
Like, at most, you can relieve a siege for a couple more days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
But, like,
Baker.
Which
But,
I
sorry,
forget.
I was
At this point,
using...
the Crusades are like 20,000+ men.
Yeah, but, okay. But the point I'm making is I can take on more risky contracts transporting numbers of people armed with swords and stuff. But only if I have a loyal crew. Yeah, because it ingratiates me with people like the Pope. Now, I may not like religion, but I'm perfectly
You're
happy
making enough money that you pretty much own the kingdoms at both ends.
Yeah, but the Pope has a lot of soft power.
He does.
Yes, but in this period, you can quite literally buy him. You don't need to do favors for him.
That's true. I mean, one of my goals is to save Byzantium. That's one of my long-term goals, because I don't want the Roman Empire to fall.
Well, in simple terms, then you make it, then in the nicest way, you make sure Byzantium allies with both the empires at either end of your route. So that every time the Ottomans try and attack Byzantium, they've got invasion coming from the east to come and get them.
Yeah.
And the Normans can come and reinforce Byzantium.
Yeah, and literally, literally, it's like the beacons are lit. The beacons are lit. Constantinople calls for aid. And then literally William the Conqueror. It's not just beacons. It's like it's Great Eastern steam whistle, and like William the Conqueror's like, and England will answer. Muster the row here.
But there's just one issue with that. You're trusting the Normans with money.
I mean,
the last time the Pope trusted the Normans with money, they took over Sicily.
Well, that probably would happen. In a nice way, the Normans probably would take over Sicily as well, still in this scenario. But in a nice way, you're probably getting the Normans eventually taking over Byzantium as well. But we'll leave that to one side.
Yeah.
They
did. So, typical gunner. So, we've done that question to the ground, I think. Typical gunner officer asks, do you think the CP-107 Argus is the best propeller maritime patrol aircraft in the Cold War, better than the Orion, the Atlantique, IL-38, and the Bear maritime patrol aircraft variants? We have discussed this question before in a previous ramblings, but to be very, very brief, the Argus is... The problem you've got with the Argus is that it is a piston-engine maritime patrol aircraft. Now, I use the word problem loosely here. The advantage that you have with things like Orion, Atlantique, IL-38, and the Bear maritime patrol aircraft, the Tu-142, is their higher transit speed that turboprop propulsion gives them. That's basically... Like, ignore the differences in weapons fits and everything else and range. That's the real thing here. The advantage in transit speed is really what makes those other aircraft better than the Argus. The ability to get places and do things faster. And that's all I'm going to say, that we're going to move on, because we've answered this question before. Ruinon asks, the panel's favourite single-deck sailing class or family? Rui, could you extrapolate, please? I don't
single gun deck
sailing class or family.
Warrior. Ironclad frigate.
Gloire.
Single gun deck.
Oh no, sorry, not Gloire. I don't mean Gloire.
Okay.
I mean
You can pick the thing that mine was designed to take the lunch off.
What was it? No, it's not. It's not Gloire. It's the.
Notice that he's going for a French thing.
What were you expecting?
Yeah.
What were you expecting? Honestly, come on, you should all know me by now.
Technically speaking, single gun deck. So
what?
Where do we draw the line?
Probably at Central Battery.
Yeah, because the problem is Central Battery.
Technically, the Ganguts were a single gun deck, weren't they?
No, the forward turret stepped up.
I think that's on the Nikolai.
No, not on the Gangut.
That's the successors. So the Imperator Maria and the Ganguts are all flush deck.
Yeah.
And the Dante Alighieri, they're definitely all flush decks. Dante Alighieri is the option then if I can't have the Gangut.
Sorry, I remember now. The French ironclad Couronne. the first Ironhold French ironclad. The much the much better version of Gloire. Unfortunately, I can't have any of the French Central Battery ironclads, which are some of my favourites, because they all have different levels of decks of guns. Which is sad. But hey ho. Can't have it all. No matter how much you might want to.
Huron is a good pick, to be fair. But it's also basically warrior, in a way.
It is a strong. A lot of her design cues are basically designed. Oh, good lord! The British have stepped up. We need to do the same.
Yeah. I was actually in warrior a week ago.
Hey,
very nice.
The fact she has survived as long as she has and has actually been preserved is, it's always a very good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't.
Yeah.
Nope.
It is sad. Barbatis on Discord asked, did the American first rates actually ever go up against contemporary ships?
No.
Didn't think they did.
Their first rates, by the time they had their first rates in service, the War of 1812-14 was over. And, yeah. Can I ask a completely random question on the panel?
Go on.
I know there's this whole thing of people liking to believe that they are auditors now who go around photographing things that the state's doing. But why is there someone who apparently can't understand that going and standing with a video camera outside a school, calling himself an auditor, was not a sensible thing to do?
You
and why? Look, in the nicest way, if you want to go and do it to various government departments, frankly, I'll consider you boring and annoying, but I'm not really going to object it. But going and standing outside a school with a video camera to try and prove that the school's not doing the right thing, especially a primary school, I think you're going to get charges and they're not going to be trumped up.
I think I've got.
They are quite legitimate charges at that point.
I have an amazing gift for that.
What? Is it the play stupid games and get stupid prizes gift?
No, it's that it's the one where he goes, I'm getting the word nonce.
About the bird, or the word. But it's the word.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's very questionable behaviour, to say the least.
Yeah.
Look, I just don't understand where you come from the thing of next place I'm going to expose a primary school. Using the words expose and primary school in the same sentence is not a good phrasing.
Yeah, right. So,
and been demonetized.
Well, I'm not monetized anyway, so we're all right.
Monetized, so it's fine.
Yeah, but yeah. Typical Officer asks, question 8, out of context question, which basketball player do you think is the best that ever played? Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, or Steph Curry? I have no interest in basketball.
Didn't they have this one?
I've never heard
Michael Jordan and then Larry Bird.
I've never heard of any of these people, nor do I care about them.
I think he's taken a... Have you amputated his tail?
Oh.
Sorry.
Eaten.
Poodle.
Anyone else got any answer on that basketball question, or are we going to move on?
My brother.
Absolutely.
It's the best.
No clue.
Like, first pick is always going to be Michael Jordan, and it really doesn't matter what your opinion on that is. The other ones are whatever your opinion is, to be honest.
Right, so the next question is, Bone Meal Boy asks, how would the Spanish Armada go if the Spanish had turtle ships? A lot worse. The turtle ship is an asset designed for operations in and around Korea, in a defensive role. It is not a ship that can go... It can't go places and do things. If you try and sail it from Spain to England...
I'm just trying to imagine trying to cross the Bay of Biscay in a turtle ship.
Oh, God.
Plus the gunnery focus in European navies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just...
My recreation would be exactly what it'd be like.
And then it would be added in, oh, now the English are here and they're firing their guns at us.
Whoops.
Yeah. Not even
Maybe
just
it's,
that, also the deck
English
mortars.
Oh.
Insanity
Yeah.
rages at Wiki World of Warships Legends asks, what is Fleet's next Rule the Waves 3 campaign going to be? Oh, I mean, I said it at the end of the Confederate States of America campaign last Tuesday, but the next campaign is I'm going to finally get to my favourite nation. Spain. The one I've played the most.
Let me just get this right. So you pick Spanish ship for World War II, and you play as the Confederate States of the America.
It was voted
You
for
live
in a poll.
Barbados as an English expat or something.
No, I like yeah.
The Confederacy was voted
Floridian.
for in a poll, but this one's my choice.
Are you going to play the Aussies next?
I can't. They're not really a faction. That would mean playing Britain as in totality. And I avoid playing Britain Rule the Waves like the plague because it's too easy. I like a challenge. Well, I was torn between playing the Qing or playing Spain. And I flipped a coin and Spain won. Because we've had Imperial Russia, then we had the Netherlands, then we had the Ottoman Empire, then we had the Confederacy, and now we're having the Spanish Empire. The important thing will be to
When
bash...
are you going to get rid of this fancy names and call it the Spreadsheet Empire?
There is nothing wrong with Rule the Waves in the way it is designed. It's a very nice game. I just wish they'd go back to the old... I don't like
Right.
the new fancy
I will both
UI.
defend you and attack you on this one, I'm afraid. Is it a good game? Yes. Is it visually interesting to most? Not so much.
I was gonna jump on you until you said to most, and then I can't fight that.
Actually, speaking of which, me and Rude
Is it visually disturbing to anyone who understands anything about naval architecture and
Oh,
sees the ship
not
designs
this
Actually,
argument again!
something that was interesting that me and Runon found out. Fleet's followers are 50% of the Rule the Waves community.
What? That
On
can't
Twitch,
be right.
On Twitch, you have half the same number of followers as Rule the Waves as a category has.
Oh well.
And here we see Fleet breaking records in the Rule the Waves community.
The question I have is, if he's only followed by half of them, does that mean the other half can't
Also-
get their love for Rule the Waves, doesn't trump their... doesn't override their not enjoying the way Fleet plays Rule the Waves?
Also, Gunnery Officer, that's not true at all. That gameplay defeats visuals any single day? No, it doesn't. There is most certainly a point where visuals have to come into this.
Like,
Good
there
gameplay
is a
is-
reason Dwarf Fortress has been working to improve its animations and
Like-
its artwork.
Gameplay should definitely be the main thing.
That's just
But saying
Exactly.
defeated
That's
visuals is
different
not
between
really
people.
right.
I mean, Rule the Waves gameplay in terms of the spreadsheet stuff has been popular on YouTube and Twitch for a long time now. There's clearly a market for it.
Not really. I mean, there's a market for everything.
Yeah.
Depends how
It
big
just
the
depends on
market
how big
is.
the market is.
You know, I'm sure there are people who like fascist Spain, Napoleonic Bonapartist France, and the Confederate States of America. I'm sure there's a small subset you can find out there who like that. Doesn't mean
You know-
it's a good thing.
I always thought you were the person who would say separate politics and video games. You know, like they should be
Literally, it
separate.
does.
Then why is he
I do.
advocating for the
Yeah,
opposite
but
at this
it-
point?
it-
I'm sorry.
Playing
Playing the
anything.
Nazis in Battlefield is very different from playing 3 different sets of fascists in a game. They can choose who you play as.
But no, I didn't say anything. Fleet. That wasn't anything against you. I was just picking examples.
Wait, may I recommend trying another nation?
I've played Russia, the Netherlands.
I was going to say the Russians.
The Netherlands.
You're not
the
getting
Ottoman.
to your toy.
I mean, I've played. I've played every single nation in Rule the Waves 1, 2, and 3. Austria, Italy, Germany, France, the Qing, Japan, Russia, Spain, and then for nations that I added through mods, the Netherlands, the Ottoman Empire, Sweden, Norway, independent Canada.
You've been to Norway again.
Well,
Why did Canada go independent?
I don't know. Just did.
If you go down the little fascist route, I recommend Germany. Just get the trio.
Well, at that point, I would be starting in 1890, as I always do, and it's Imperial Germany.
Yeah, same thing.
So,
Different Japanese,
proto-fascism,
well,
okay.
To be fair, there is one which is sort of slightly annoyed with you because whilst Kaiser Wilhelm was bad, was he Hitler bad at strategic analysis?
Yes. Arguably worse.
There is a whole debate there. Which one was truly worse? And why did both believe that Britain wouldn't go to war against them?
Britain never goes to war against continental hegemons, do they, Clark?
No, we don't have a history of doing that at all.
It's as if people didn't read history books.
No.
You know, if they only looked at Napoleon before them. Always in one.
Or the English and the French teaming up to beat the hell out of the Spanish. Repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
It's ironic how history repeats itself.
Apparently my camera is currently sending at a low frame rate, but I haven't changed it at all.
Cornish Wi-Fi.
Don't get me started. I'm actually... This is the fun thing I have sitting in my... this is the sort of thing, as everyone here who's a homeowner will know, the fun stuff you have sitting in your Amazon purchase basket for what you're going to be purchasing at some point. And mine includes, I kid you not, a nearly £300 router. It's sitting in the box. And it is a dual source router, which will do load balancing and sort all those things out for me. It's an Asus RT BE92U B9700 tri-band Wi-Fi 7 router. And it's £260. And I need to get that and a set of 3 extra extenders for another £260. And I can change their entire internet system so that it can work, so that Wi-Fi and everything can work off both sources of internet instead of just the landline, the hardwire working off both sources of internet. And that is what you get to as an adult with home ownership. You start thinking, no, I'm not going to treat myself with this money. I'm going to spend it on electronic infrastructure.
Yeah, that's the way it sometimes is. Ruinon asks, and this is something that I actually...
have a suggestion, please tell me.
Yeah. Ruinon asks, this is something I actually don't have the dog in the fight for, so I'm going to open it up to the rest of the panel and take a 2-minute quick sabbatical while I do that. Ruinon asks on YouTube, panel's opinion on the most impactful pre-Napoleonic coastal fortification.
Ruinon's here.
The man asks for more questions prior to World War One. I give him more questions, and he goes to drain the radiator. I don't get no respect in this joint.
No, but don't worry, no one does.
It's obvious though, Ruinon. It's called the Theodosian Walls.
Enlighten me.
So are you aware of this place called Istanbul?
Yeah. It's now called Constantinople, or was called Constantinople.
I was gonna say, has it had a name change in the last hour or so?
Listen,
And the
I've
city
been
of
up since about
Constantinople.
10 o'clock
Blocked off
yesterday.
Peninsula.
It's now 1440.
Yes, the 1440 is when Constantinople fell. Not near enough, so. Alright. And this was a massive wall that cut off the isthmus that led to the city. Along the wall didn't just cut off the isthmus, it went down the coast to the main harbour of the city. And it essentially protected this city of Constantinople for, I want to say, 900 years to some degree. And would only be broken by the cannon. But yes, anyone else?
I'm trying to look up because I cannot remember the name of it. The fortification which stops Amsterdam being taken at various points.
Okay, so
Right,
I was right. The
this is
Theodosian
the
walls survived for over 950 years before being breached.
Yeah, but the Amsterdam kept out the ones in Amsterdam kept out both the Spanish and Napoleon. So, you know. I'm trying to find it though.
But did they keep out the British?
No.
Very few things keep out the British. Although I have to say, I'm going to put a special mention to the Vaxholm Fortress in Stockholm, because the Vaxholm Fortress was A, gorgeous to go around, and B, you can see why it was so successful. It was also fun because when we went up to see it, it did cause a mild consternation amongst my colleagues when they realised A, how far we were going, and B, once we got there, they went, "Oh, yeah, we understand why you came here and why you did this."
Question, because I just thought of this, and it is tangential to this question. Do firing slits change as weapons evolve? E.g., you go from bow to crossbow to hand cannon to black powder rifle. Okay.
Yeah,
black powder.
I've got another one for you, Runon. The Sveborg fortress that was once from Sweden, then it was in Russian hands, and then it was in Finnish hands, and I think it's never been taken by either the Russians, French and British, and then Russians again, I think.
It's been surrendered, but it's never been taken. It's a wonderful fortress to go around. I spent some time there last summer.
It's very nice.
It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
And a very well positioned fortress.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right. So the next question.
I can also add that not far from it there is a beautiful place to go for a swim in the Baltic, which I highly recommend.
Yeah, so just to answer your question, Ronan, firing slits change a lot, even between the bow and the crossbow. Namely, they don't really emerge until you get the crossbow.
Right, well, there you are then.
You see the mechanics on how you fire a bow.
Absolutely.
And engineering differences.
Yeah. So, typical gunnery officer asks, question 9. Opinions on the Orlal Hazard having the Ottomalera 76mm gun. Why didn't they have a bigger gun like the 5-inch 54, or keep it 76 but with the American one? Simply put, that gun is not a deck-penetrating mount. That precise Ottomalera 76 is the non-deck penetrating or the shallow deck penetrating mount. Depends on the Perry, I think. But the whole point is given the way the Perry's put together, you need a mount that takes up minimal internal space within the ship, given where they put it. And they also they wanted
weight.
Yeah, they wanted to have a gun, on the Perrys. They couldn't have the 5-inch 54 because that's a very deep deck penetrating mount, and the only place you could put that on a Perry would be forward. And they want that forward space for the single arm missile launcher in its magazine. You can't put it aft because that's where the helicopter hangar is for the Perry's two helos and the helicopter deck. So, if you want a gun on a Perry, it's got to be a midships on top of the superstructure. And at that point, your options basically, do you want a Ottomalera 76, an Ottomalera 76, an Ottomalera 76, or an Ottomalera 76?
Or do you want to pay a lot of money to develop your own?
Yeah, that as well. And at that point, the options are fairly obvious. And in terms of why they didn't, why the step down to the smaller gun wasn't seen as a downside,
it's kind of strange because usually the Americans go for the fourth option,
and
then a fourth option and spend a lot of money on it.
Yeah, the reason why the step down to the bigger
no one said we were smart.
The reason why the step down wasn't seen as a negative was because, well, the 76,
the frigate.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an ASW frigate. Designed to bulk out the numbers, so the gun is really a tertiary weapon. But they still need it for some use cases. Your primary weapons are your helos, your towed array, and the torpedoes you have on port and starboard side, and your ASROC launcher, which you probably use your single arm for. Your secondary weapon is your single arm launcher with harpoon for anti-ship and standard missile for air-to-air work, and your tertiary weapons are your 3-inch and your 50 cal machine guns.
Don't also forget that the 76 is also a multi-purpose weapon system that can aid with the SM-1 launcher.
Yeah. It does form part of the Perry's close-in weapons group. The 76 will engage first, and the Perry Sea-Whiz will engage if the 76 can't get it. It adds another layer to the air defense grid. And that's the long and the short of it, basically. Funny, the reason I know a lot about the OHP is that if anyone's heard of the game Dangerous Waters at all, which is based on a training software designed for the US military, I used to enjoy motoring around in a Perry in that when I was a much younger lad.
Fleet, in the nicest way, you're 26. There's not much younger you can get.
How does 10 to 12 strike you?
Yeah.
And also, there is Foxo here, so we do have some babies in the chat.
Zoomer.
As you know, I'm only 3 years older than Team Fortress 2.
Zoomer.
Or a baby.
I think there's a military term for this, and I think it's called Sprog.
Yes.
There are FIFA games older than me. There were ships in the Royal Navy older than me.
That's not surprising.
That's not hard either.
Because they couldn't afford to replace them. Oh, well, actually, probably they could afford to do so, just the government said no.
I mean, technically
there
speaking...
are ships in the Royal Navy older than all of us, pretty much, here, I think, because there's... I think me and James are probably the two ancient ones here, and there's HMS Argus still in the Royal Navy, and I'm fairly sure she's older than both of us.
Also, technically speaking, isn't HMS Victory still classed as Royal Navy?
Yes.
Yes, she
so,
is.
Find someone in this chat who's older than HMS Victory.
We can't.
If any immortal vampires want to speak up.
Well, I wasn't gonna say anything, but
they should commission Mary Rose's wreck.
Oh dear. Right. Anyway, so
before we go, has anyone watched the D&D movie?
No.
Okay. Has anyone played D&D?
Yes.
I both played D&D. I both play D&D regularly and have watched the movie. The movie was actually quite good at representing the shenanigans that your average adventuring party gets up to.
Cool. You know in the part where they have to go to graveyards and they resurrect someone to ask them 5 questions.
Yeah. Speak with dead.
Yes. Shall we find someone who's older than, what, 1769? Get him to ask 5 questions? Technically, they'll be older than Victory.
Which graveyard are we digging up?
So, who do you want to take up?
I am legally not
Because
answering
he's-
this question.
Is there actually a
Let's
law
think of-
against taking up
Let's
dead
think
people?
of Cromwell.
I'm
That'll
sure
go
you'll
well.
do. But Fleet, I'm sure you would do well in an unboxing video.
Nope. Okay. Moving on. Moving on.
In 5 questions.
Moving
That is
on.
something which we
Moving
can't.
on. Does
Where's-
whatever
Today
a
we're
moving
on-
on does.
So today we're unboxing a really rare specimen.
Well, there must have been a Death Star
1 of 1
canteen. I mean, in
Oliver
between battles
Cromwell.
where Darth Vader could go and he would say, "I will have the." Anyway, moving on. Admiral Wellesley on
Okay,
Discord
that'll be
asks, "Right, farewell, James. Always nice to have you." Admiral Wellesley asks, "If I were to
Why
take,"
say goodbye to James?
because he said he was going.
What have we done? No, we didn't.
No.
Oh, did I hear that?
Add a
More proof
Beata.
that Fleet is just
Well,
going
there must-
insane.
Yeah. Oh, you were finishing the bit.
He's
Fair enough.
taking people off his show now.
Oh, don't you start with this false narrative, I swear. I will do something. I don't know what it is yet. Give me 2 weeks to think about it, but I'll do something. I'll
Fleet, are
invade
you
Belgium.
Sure? Fleet, are you sure you want to go up against the Clark clan and associates?
Who said it was something I was going to do to the Clark clan? No, I'm going to invade Belgium.
An injury
Why?
to one is an injury to all, brother.
Right, Admiral Wellesley on Discord asks, "If I were to take a HMS Hood hull, stick 5 15-inch 42 twin turrets in an Iron Duke layout while keeping a similar armor scheme in 1940 and using something similar to the KGV superstructure with a bit more space in the middle to allow for a larger arc of fire, could I still squeeze a propulsion system in powerful enough to do 30 knots? No. You're basically building a counterpart to the QEs. You're basically sacrificing propulsion to which you'll still probably achieve 24 to 26 knots because the amount of horsepower she needs to achieve the design speed she does is ludicrous just because of the way...
Mostly because of her hull length as well, her hull shape.
Yeah. So you'll
That's
probably
gonna
still
save
achieve
you the
26
most
knots. And
knots.
also, if you have a 26 knot ship with 5 15-inch 42 twins with Hood's armor, that's an asset that basically terrifies everybody. Because that is, I'm going to murder you, I don't care who you are. Even if it can't do 30 knots, which it won't be able to, you might get 26 to 27 out of it.
Just Hood's armor? Do we have Hood subdivisions?
Yes.
Well,
It
keeping
has-
the
Definitely
armor
not.
layout similar to 1940s.
Yeah. I don't...
Can I please fix her deck slope?
Probably. if we're assuming armor scheme... Yeah, you'll...
I'll happily take another knot off if I can just fix the small issues with the deck slope.
Yeah, honestly, 26 knots. Spiteful Ghost of ABC, what did I say about pinging me? I am keeping up with the chat. But...
Are you?
Yes!
Are you keeping up the chat?
I am keeping up with the chat, but don't ping me unless you need me.
Ping pong.
Fleet, buddy. We specifically discussed this at the last budget meeting where you clearly said, and I quote, "Keeping up with the various chats just isn't in the budget," end quote.
Now you listen
be
here. There
Now,
is
to be
no
fair,
budget.
Runon, I've already had
To be
this go at him
fair,
earlier.
that meeting he said keeping up the chat is various batches isn't in the budget, and then took a big bite of a large donut. And he only brought donuts for himself at the meeting. It's
Oh,
really
for the
quite
love
rude.
of God,
He
kill
didn't
me.
worry,
even
Bruno.
bring coffee for anybody but himself.
No.
He literally brought a half dozen donuts and a pint of coffee and didn't offer any of it, let alone attempt to
And
share.
just ate them
So-
in front of us.
so-
Which is really quite
Yeah.
cruel.
So congratulations.
And I
Yeah.
showed up
So congratulations.
especially early.
You've just outed yourself as either liars or having dinner with a doppelganger, because that can't have been me. I don't eat donuts, and I certainly don't drink coffee. I despise the stuff. So whoever that was,
Chat,
it wasn't me.
Chat. Look at me. Look at Dr. Clark. Do either of us look like we would lie to you?
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt,
You're
with a
not
proven
Chat,
track
Fleet.
record.
You're not Chat.
Shut the I am in charge here! I will use the power of Fleet to throw you
Fleet,
into Hoshia's
Fleet,
boiler room!
Fleet,
Don't make me
Fleet,
do it!
You're not... Fleet, you're not part of the chat. You're not part of the crew. Chat.
I
Don't
will
worry.
give you
Moving
a
on, for the record though, he
Spine
already has had the whole thing that
removal?
he needs to pay more attention to the chat today.
spine removal
Yeah,
is approaching.
Notably by the sheer fact of, you've got a phone. Use it.
I am paying
Yes.
attention!
I know. I heard that.
Do
Good.
not boot
Fleet,
the fleet.
You said that wasn't in the budget.
I didn't say jack shit.
That could be an
You
actually
just
an
said
idea. Get Krispy
jack
Kreme
shit
donuts
right
that day.
now.
You are...
It was a truly colossal donut.
Unfortunately, that's one thing. Actually, that might be a thing to ask Leslie if he knows any good donut places outside in
Oy.
Newcastle.
Oh,
Goody, I'm gonna make the ferry.
oh, for the love of God. Alright.
We need
Alright.
to investigate that pizza place he meant.
One last question. YouTube Minecraft Watcher asks the panel's favourite frigate. Specific frigates in brackets, and then in square brackets inside the brackets, quasi-frigates count.
Can somebody define for me a quasi frigate?
I like how there are multiple shocked murmurings from everyone involved here.
It's just such a convoluted term nowadays.
That.
A quasi frigate, I would say, corvette, sloop, anything that sort of fits that category that isn't probably isn't an OPV or something like that. So I don't think the Irish vessels count the Dead Poet Society.
Is Suffren a frigate?
Yeah, Frem's a frigate. I mean, I think if we're talking Age of Sail frigates, it's indefatigable. If we're talking
The Constitutions.
If we're talking Age of Steam, we're talking the Merseys, the ones that Warrior took her lines from. If we're talking World War II, Black Swan, pretty please. And if we're talking modern, I'm nicking off with an Oliver Hazard Perry. Thank you very much.
We're talking modern. I'm taking a Type 26.
Fleet, it seems James wants to be brought up again.
Oh, okay. We'll bring him up then.
You kicked him off.
No, I didn't.
Big...
Would you please
I'll
stop
look then,
spreading misinformation?
I would like to say
Angie
that at
fleet
least
noises.
I would like to say that at least Discord chat agrees that I am a perfectly honorable individual, as evidenced by the fact that I'm also an Eagle Scout.
Like that counts for anything.
I put the work in for that rank.
Yes, apologies. My laptop decided to have a bit of a dying session.
This seems to be a noticeable trend lately.
It's pretty slow as well. There's a little bit of lag with that.
Theoretically speaking, my computer just needs to manage to survive like 3 or 4 more days. That's all it needs to do.
Mine needs to survive 2
Then
more
it can
weeks.
finally rest in peace.
What the fuck? Is your
computer
camera
dying?
still sending a low frame rate?
Say again, boy?
I wasn't aware your
No.
computer was dying.
It's not. But well,
Maybe you pass the issue to
it
me.
probably is, but also isn't. It's more a case of
Is it
old.
Discord has the issue?
Possibly. Let's have a look on the actual camera app. Or for an anime.
It's very much the meme way of go to play a game. You can do it, my come on, my old friend, my good little war machine. Sort of trying to coax it to do certain things. especially stuff like high grade of Orion.
Work.
But then once again, we can suggest other people than Fleet host toy games.
Now, wait, hold on just a minute.
We have many suggestions, or we have
No
suggested
comment.
that many times.
No comment.
To be fair, Gareth would never say no to you guys.
No comment.
True enough.
It's more
Been attacked by
pointed
snacks.
towards that Fleet refused to relinquish his
Look, well,
his rights to run toy games.
politely, given the fact I'll only be able to run them for a little while longer, I'd like to keep doing it.
It's
So
okay.
Hey, no,
Hey,
you're gonna have a
more-
far better
more Black
computer
Ice
soon.
Pardon?
Next Black Ice multiplayer game when?
In this server, I don't know.
Boy.
In my server, after the
In 5
19th,
minutes.
I guess. Although I suppose we could do something this evening if people want to. Right, so...
Hedgington,
That sounds fun.
Look, so do we need to beat Fleet in his bunker again?
No, leave me alone.
yes.
He was already freaking out pretty badly last time.
Leave me alone.
Because also Fleet has a noticeable thing that he doesn't like about Black Ice. In particular, when people decide to not follow appeasement.
You have to
Europe.
follow appeasement in Black Ice.
Oh, you don't.
You do.
It's very funny. when
Otherwise,
Britain says,
otherwise,
"No,
Germany,
we don't
otherwise,
follow
otherwise,
Czechoslovakia
Germany
is as
just
far as we go."
dies, and there's basically no World War II unless you're planning to fight the Russians.
Oh, there is. It's how quickly can you get your industry up to scale?
Right. So the final question. Typical gunner officer asks, not incentive related question. What if the Union mass-produced repeating rifles and introduced it to the army during the first 2 years of the Civil War? How would this change the situation on the battlefield, and how would the Rebs react to this? They did have a large amount of repeating firearms.
They
The problem
I am
was
They
presuming
could
he's
make-
saying
they
he
could
wanted
make those.
the
they
problem
couldn't
was
make those in large numbers.
the problem was
I'm presuming what he means is he's talking about full rifle size repeating
Yeah.
rifles.
the problem is
Because
the
most of
only
repeating rifles are carbines, basically.
Yeah, the only repeating rifle that's producible at scale is the horrific 15-shot. What was it called?
Spencer?
Not the
No, that's
Spencer
not
rifle.
15
It's the other one. It's the horrible one. It's the one that has an all
The
sheet
Henry?
steel metal barrel. Hang on. 1 minute. I'm just looking.
The
up.
one with the tube, with the barrel tube
Yes.
magazine?
Yeah.
I forgot the name.
Yeah, hang on. I'm just looking it up.
But the issue
Yeah, the
with
Henry.
that
Yeah,
is,
sorry, it is the Henry. Yeah, it's the Henry.
you know,
And politely, the Henry's rubbish. Like, it looks,
What?
on paper, the Henry rifle looks great, until you
I
realise...
say, if you're saying about
until-
the Henry vacuum cleaner, you and I
No.
are going to have problems.
No, but
I just
if
heard
you...
the phrase Henry rubbish and went, what?
No, but
Hmm.
No, you heard right.
I'm gonna point out a few things. So, first things first, it's very front...
Bleeping,
It's
brave enough
very...
to say a Henry Hoover's rubbish.
So, good points. It holds 15 rounds.
They are when they break.
Holds 15 rounds. You literally work the action purely by the lever. So if you work the lever, it chambers around, cocks the action, and the gun's ready to fire. So that's the good points. 15 rounds, easy action, and very capable of rapid fire. Now for everything else. Opening the tube to reload can be a bit troublesome. If you bring the follower with the spring back down too quickly and you fumble it, it could cause the cartridges in the ammunition tube to go off. It has no wooden stock around the... secondly, the ammunition tube is open at the bottom, so the spring can easily get fouled and rust. The gun has nowhere to put your hands when you're firing it, so you're holding a metal barrel along which rounds are travelling rapidly, which will increase in heat exponentially as it goes on. Yeah.
And you can't put anything around the barrel because the rifle already has barrel warping issues.
Mm-hmm.
These have to be regularly replaced.
Yeah.
It's also a very inconsistent spring loading system, which means that you can't close the spring.
How many rounds could you chuck out the muzzle a minute?
At least 15.
Yeah, 15 rounds a minute easily.
Okay.
It is seriously, it's not worth it in terms of an overall logistical run. Yeah. So let me highlight something here. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, the Americans were using a rifled muzzle-loading musket in the form of the 1861 Springfield," and I go, "Well, here's the thing with the 1861 Springfield: every single thing in that gun is a standardized part." Because it's a black powder weapon, it will foul. And at the end of the day, you're probably going to want to clean it after a heavy engagement. The entire regiment can throw all of the parts from their guns into a pot of boiling water to wash them. And they can be guaranteed that any single part they pull out will fit the 1861 that they have. Because they are all interchangeable parts. And that is huge. That is massive. For an army on campaign in this period, that's a massive accomplishment.
Can I add the biggest and most important factor to this whole debacle as well?
Mm-hmm.
This here in my fingers is a mini ball.
Yep.
It's a .574 caliber ball.
Yep.
That is undersized for the .58 bore that they used in the model 1861, right? The reason that they undersized it is so that they could make the ammunition, as much ammunition as possible, that could also work in the Enfields, right? While also having enough tolerance for manufacturing so many barrels. Because you cannot get to the precision tolerances you need in a Henry rifle, which does not have an expanding skirt bullet like this one does. You cannot do that in a Henry to deliver rifles for the entire US Army at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible.
No.
That's why they stuck with the muzzle loaders.
Yeah.
For as long as they did.
Yeah, for the infantry they absolutely did, although it's worth pointing out that the cavalry adopted lever action carbines. There was a what was it? Hang on, carbines. Where is it? It wasn't the.
No, gunnery officer, a revolver rifle is the worst idea.
Yeah,
in the history of mankind.
It is a really bad idea. I
mean, you could have a nitroglycerin rifle.
Yeah, but same issues.
Mm-hmm.
You also need specifically made ammunition. Like the nitroglycerin rifle you're talking about is the one from Austro-Hungary.
Yeah. If we want to talk about decent repeating weaponry, in terms of what I would actually want to issue, the Spencer. The Spencer is what you want. Internal ammunition, so the follower is kept internally in the stock. It has a wooden handguard for your hands. The action's a little bit slower, and you do have to manually cock it. But apart from that, 7 rounds in the tube, and it's a pretty chunky round. It's a .56 rimfire cartridge. And you can get it in carbine form, which the US did. A lot, and they built a lot of those carbines. And you can also get it in rifle form as well. Now that is the weapon I would want. If I'm going to issue a repeating rifle, that's the weapon I want to issue.
if you can get over the industrial limitations, yes.
Yeah.
And
I know.
also
There's a
you
lot of
don't get
limitations
outraned
there,
by
but I'm
a
saying,
Springfield, that is.
yeah. But I'm saying if there is a gun I want to issue, that's the gun.
But could I also make a suggestion?
Sure.
Maybe teaching more Union soldiers to actually range their rifles.
Yeah, just a bit.
So they can shoot at more than 120 yards accurately.
Well, the thing with that is it's partially down to the rifles.
It's the numbers again.
But it is also down to because of the fact they're black powder weapons, your trajectory's not like shooting a higher powered smokeless cartridge.
But the British and the French were using rifle muskets 10 years earlier in the Crimea Wars to shoot at ranges of in excess of 500 yards at columns of Russian troops. So it's definitely a training thing. But of course, you have to take into account you cannot train 500,000 conscripts that quickly.
No,
Right?
no, you can't. Right.
So yeah, that's an issue.
So that was Fleet's Random Ramblings 81. Only 2 to go until the 19th, and the 4-year anniversary. So obviously tune in on. So Tuesday we've got Rule the Waves first episode of the Spanish campaign on Twitch. Wednesday we've got Railroader again, and Thursday I will be on the World of Warships channel with definitely Dr. Clark and possibly Drac for the VE Day celebrations with World of Warships.
And Sunday is the 5-year anniversary of Brew Ships.
Yes. Oh yes, because the 5-year anniversary of the 5-year anniversary of your channel was a couple of weeks ago. This is the 5-year anniversary of Brew Ships.
Yeah.
So that's going to be
kind of weird.
Yeah, so that's going to be good as well.
What you and Clark might do on that warship stream.
Yeah. Also, don't forget, that of course
I'm trying to see if we can get space for a third of us because James, I think, he might be free on Thursday. I'm not sure, and if he is, I'm trying to argue for it.
As long as it's someone else, but not me.
This week, no. I got a GMBSS exam the next day.
Oh dear.
Oh dang. Okay, I won't argue for it as loudly, but basically they're short staff on Thursday.
Yeah, but yeah.
Dragon.
So, politely before I go,
they do keep asking me about Dragon and Fox.
It's revenge for the Minecraft server.
Yeah. So, before
Philippine really does like them.
Yeah.
5 to 10 grand, baby.
Yeah.
5 to 10 grand.
So
more meaning the teasing, but
yeah. So before I go,
No.
So
I'm considering start
with me.
I'm considering buying Minecraft and start streaming on Twitch just to start planting the ideas for Runon.
So anyway,
I think Fox would be fun to have on Thursday. Fox and Dragon would be fun.
Gentlemen, can I please? Anyway, so thank you everyone for coming.
Why does he always singles out me and Dragon?
Thank you very much.
What are the ones talking? He picks on me and
Ladies,
Dragon.
gentlemen, those of indeterminate gender, those without gender, those who can't pick a gender, and everything in between, all of whom are valid decisions to make, please. Thank you.
Fleet, I think you might have just offended every group there, but anyway, go on.
Yeah. Hey, but he offended every group equally.
Anyway, go on, Fleet.
Before I go, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Tell your friends. Leave a comment to feed the almighty, all-knowing algorithm god of destruction. And if you want to support me on Patreon, please do. You can get a free Ramblings question every week, and if you go for the highest tier, you can be on Ramblings. And of course, don't forget that I now have a coffee as well, which I will post a link to on my channel's community page.
I don't it.
But you don't like coffee.
Well, it buys me a cider.
You
buys me a cider.
He got all.
And
he got all those coffee and donuts. Bring it.
Oh,
well, to be fair,
he has a Kofi But Foxo and Dragon also have Ko-fi, so it's supposed to be set up so that they can also get some support.
Because we were
And
bullied
yet the
into
system
it.
mysteriously isn't working for them to be able to get support.
No, the system
It's
is working. It's just
Yeah.
it just so happens that somebody has to use the right chat commands so that they work.
Also, hey,
Moving
you're just
on.
buying Foxo souls. I'm sure absolutely nothing will go wrong with this.
Yeah. So, thank you everybody for watching.
By the way, I
take
do not
care.
accept Fleet Souls, people
And
from
I will-
Sheffield, people from London. Any attempt to send me an
Let's-
American soul will have it returned
Yeah.
post haste. I'm not going to Lockheed Martin's bad
Are
side.
you saying my